Sorry, B. I attempted to do that and Jeff caught my hand.
And as apology, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference meeting, August 25th, and the city council meeting, Tuesday, August 26th.
Now that was smart. It had been moved by Councilman Everson for the approval of the minutes of the administrative conference and of the city council meeting, and has been seconded by Councilman Mike Carvin. Any questions or discussion, Sam, at this point?
None, sir.
If not, let's vote. All right, minutes approved. Dale,
Yes, sir.
I see the mayor's not here.
Well, he will be down shortly. He was at
You
a
always
large
do a good
conference
job
meeting.
filling in for him. Did you have anybody that you want to recognize besides Sammy?
Well, not at
We'll
this
recognize
moment.
Sammy later on here.
Not at this moment, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure the mayor will have some when he comes down. I will note that we have all those who are up for confirmation in the chamber today. So when we get to that section, we can present everyone outside of Ms. Jackson, who was here yesterday.
Okay, I want to recognize Pastor. Will you come up? Pastor Calvin Austin, will you come up at this time and brief us on what you want to brief us on?
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor in his absence. I am Pastor H. Calvin Austin III. My address is 3546 Pleasant Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109. I'm the pastor of the Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church located at 10930 Ellerby Road. I am the chairman of the upcoming Civil Rights Celebration that will be held on next Tuesday at the Avenue Baptist Church. Is a follow-up of the service we had last year at Galilee. This year we'll be inaugurating 3 awards in the names of Dr. C.O. Simpkins, Dr. Lewis C. Pendleton, and Pastor Harry Blake. On that night, 3 people who are unsung heroes in our city will receive those awards. We have a speaker locally, and we have formed a interdenominational, interracial choir. We have the prayers offered by Bishop Michael Duca of the Catholic Diocese, Pastor Curry of the First Presbyterian Church, and Pastor Lethan McGee of Mansfield. That night, if the Lord said the same, will be a coming together of people all across the city. Our theme for this year is where we've been, where we are, and where do we go from here. I was sharing with one of the council members that somewhere along the way, we as a people, not black people, but we as people of Shreveport, have to come together for the good of our city. So I urge you, council members, and those who may be seeing this via television, to be present on next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at the Avenue Baptist Church. Avenue is located at 901 West 70th Street, directly in front of Bewley's Furniture Store. So if you go out early and want to buy you a Chase Lounge, you can come across the street and worship with us that night. Thank you, Councilman, and thank you, council members. Any questions?
Sounds like a great service, and we appreciate you coming here to tell us about it. Look forward to attending.
I do expect you all to be there in person, especially my 2 council members.
All right. Pastor, thank you again, and appreciate it now. All right. Any other council member have a special guest that they would like? Okay, Jeff.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to start out just reminding everybody and asking everybody to keep in their prayers the people that were involved in it. There were a couple of traffic accidents yesterday on Hearn Avenue and then another on Wallace. Particularly the one on Wallace resulted in some fairly serious injuries. And so keep in your prayers the families of those that were involved in that accident. Also did want to just briefly mention that tomorrow kicks off the next round of T-bone sweeps that we'll be doing throughout the city. I'm sure Dorothy may talk about that in her property standards report later. But they will be kicking off at 8 a.m. tomorrow at Hattie Perry Park. and we will be doing the Caddo Heights area first, and then it will work its way throughout all the city council districts, where we'll have a group of property standards, and then all of the other sort of inspectors and neighborhood policing and all of that, so that we can really get an intensive chance to catch up on the problems that exist in our neighborhoods and make it the best they can be. So that'll start tomorrow and last for the next few months. And then did want to give a quick congratulations to the Louisiana Startup Prize that announced their top 5 in their first year of their entrepreneurial competition. This is a competition that will result in businesses that will get investment and business assistance to create jobs right here locally in Shreveport, and it's a fantastic competition. They had a lot more entrants than they could have expected. They were hoping for maybe 40 entrants, and they had 90-something. So it's very competitive. They ended up with a great top 5, and just congratulations to them. Also want to extend congratulations to the Food Bank of North Louisiana, who announced last week they've just received a wonderful grant from BHP Billiton to provide $150,000 over the next few years to provide food for those in need. And that's just a great corporate citizenship that we have from BHP Billiton. And they're supporting a great cause with the North Louisiana Food Bank. And to conclude, I would like to invite a group that's here today that is from the National Guard Youth Challenge Program. If y'all could come up to the podium for a moment. The National Guard Youth Challenge Program, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a residential program that they'll give you a little bit of a background on it. But I've had the fortune of being on the state board that support the foundation that supports this program, and it's just done some wonderful, impressive things in our community, and it really provides a great opportunity for those who may need a different kind of chance in life to get ahead. So if y'all wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of introduction, we surely would appreciate it. And council members, if y'all have any questions or if you know of anybody in your districts that could benefit from this program, we've provided some additional information for you.
Yes, sir. My name is First Lieutenant Gordon Hanson. I'm the current Deputy Director for the Youth Challenge Program at Camp Minden. Now, our program has 3 camps across the state: Mars at Camp Minden, one at Camp Beauregard in Pineville, and one at the Gillis W. Long Center in Carville. Our program takes at-risk adolescents between the ages of 16 to 18, and we provide them another educational program. They have to be high school dropouts, but we provide them with a structured, disciplined environment so they can pursue their high set, which is formerly their GED. We have other internal programs that we offer now, such as college credits through BIPSI, the NCCER, which is the National Registration for Construction, and a few other things. They have the opportunity to give back to their community through community service events. Every cadet that we accept has to give 40 hours back. We just started a cycle right now. We're in our 4th week, and I have a cadet here that would be more than happy to give you all his intake on where he's at right now. And we also have a past graduate who's now in college, and she's utilizing all those incentives that she's earned through the 22-week program. We have another cycle in the Minden area starting in February, and we'll start recruiting for that cycle in December. Right now, we have another cycle scheduled to start in Carville, I believe in October, sir. So if you have anybody who's interested, the information we give you has the numbers to our recruiting department. They'd be more than happy to help and give the application that the cadet needs to fill out, or the applicant needs to fill out in order to become a cadet.
Fantastic. And if you could mention a little bit, I think it's very important to understand, I mean, this is for people who need a second chance, and they have an opportunity to go live on site, but the commitment doesn't really end there. I mean, don't y'all have sort of a follow-up program that you do with your graduates?
Yes, sir. We have a 12-month post-residential phase, and that's where the whole time they're there, they work on a plan with our post-residential department and their case managers, and they're assigned a case manager. And through those 12 months, they're in constant contact, making sure that, 1, they're staying out of trouble, 2, they're following their plan, whatever it may have been set forth, whether it was they want to try to go to college, tech, or join the military. We just make sure that they stay on the right path, and they get incentives such as a quarterly stipend to help them with getting suits for job interviews. We help them get contacts for job interviews, such as those who complete the NCCER classes for the construction portion. We actually help them find local jobs in the area or across the state of Louisiana for construction companies that are hiring. So that's what we offer during the post-residential phase.
That's fantastic. And could we hear from a recent graduate who?
Yes, sir. This is our recent graduate right here, Miss Rashina Youngblood.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, Rashina.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, I got a chance to see the graduation ceremony in July, and it was held at Municipal Auditorium. And at this ceremony, it was a tremendous turnout of people to support those of you who made it through this program. Can you tell us a little bit about what the program means to you, what it's done for you, and sort of what you think would have happened if you hadn't found the program?
I was going to high school, well, most of the times. I used to skip a lot because when you go to school and you don't make certain type of grades, you get categorized as saying you can be this, but you can't reach that goal that you want to be. So you have to settle for this. You can't be what you want. You can't set out for your goal. So when certain people gave up on me, I gave up on myself. So that made me to skip, not want to go to school, not do homework, stuff like that. So when I dropped out, the school board was like, you should go to Youth Challenge program. I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. But when I went there, I was like, this not gonna work. They hollering at me, they telling me to do push-ups. I don't want to do no push-ups. But I got so much more out of it than I thought I was. I got a scholarship for $1,000. I'm at BIPSI now. Wow. I'm going for youth care and child development, so I'm going to be a preschool teacher. And they gave me, I had discipline, but school-wise I didn't. You have certain types of discipline. Mother-wise, oh yeah, I listened. But school-wise, where you have to sit down, you have to study, you have to work for what you want, it's not going to be given to you. That's what I learned at YCP. They taught me that. They taught me that I'm worth something. Don't let nobody tell me that I'm not, because I am. And they told me to have confidence. They told me that if I want to pursue my goal, I can. No one's going to stand in my way, and they're not, because I am in college now. I'm only 17, finna be 18 September 24th. Whoop, whoop. And I'm in college and doing what I want to do, working with children. And it's just something that I thought I wasn't going to be. I thought I was going to be working at McDonald's for something like that for the rest of my life, or just going check by check. And I don't want to do that. I want to do so much more, because I know that I can do anything now.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad the program was able to show you what you had inside, and just want to congratulate you for finding the program, and really thank you for being an example and showing an example to those who may be watching us right now of how you can benefit from a program like this, because you're definitely not worth giving up on. You're definitely worth working hard for, and I'm proud to see that you found that about yourself. So
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was one other thing, so with the post-residential phase, once these cadets graduate and they go back into their, back home, we have partnerships now with LSUA. We've gotten scholarships through them and with BIPSI. So it just depends on the amount that they have to offer at the time. It would depend on the amount that the cadet gets. If they achieve that goal, or they accomplish what they're supposed to when they're at the program, they get offered those certain rewards. And she wasn't the only one. I believe her plus 7 more received scholarships in the last graduating cycle. So, and we're hoping to expand that relationship and open more doors and opportunities. And we have a new cadet now who's in week 4 in our 43rd class right now, 2014-2. And he'd like to say a word, if that's okay, sir.
Love it.
All right, Cadet Horton.
I'm Cadet Horton. This is my 4th week in the YCP program. At first, I was falling off track, wasn't going to school, I was staying in trouble. And honestly, if I didn't come to the YCP program, I'd probably be in trouble or in jail, one of the two. But here they teach you to earn everything you can, do your best. They push you to strive to be the best. They teach you everything you need to know, but you have to earn it. There is nothing they're going to give to you. You have to do everything they tell you. If they do everything they tell you, then they promise you'll be the best and you'll succeed in life no matter what.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
And I'd just like to thank, this is my Commandant, Master Sergeant Russell Johnston. He would just recently retire from the Guard and came on board with us. So a lot of our cadre that do train these cadets, they either served or are currently serving as reservists, as a reserving drillist. All our instructors are licensed teachers, and all our counselors are master degree level also at the program. So that's what we have to offer for anybody who's interested, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you all so
I got a
much.
question. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How long has this program been in existence?
It started in 1993 in Camp Beauregard. Ours recently opened up in 2001.
And you service both Shreveport and Bossier?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, all programs do. If you apply from Shreveport and we're in cycle right now, like I said, you could somebody could apply and the applicant could get accepted into Gillis W. Long. If that's where if the parent was willing to go there, or they really want to wait till it's closer to home, they could wait till our next cycle. We have 2 cycles a year, one that starts in February and one that starts in August of every year.
And so you actually recruit through the high schools? I mean, how do you get your students? You do?
No, man, that recruiting department really handles a lot of the outside recruiting, but all the applicants that come through our program, the cadets, they're high school dropouts.
Okay. And so I was just wondering, what was the connection with the high schools? I mean, because I've worked with special needs behavior disorders, and so with some of those students, we have a lot of students that need a program similar to this.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and a lot of the parents are not aware of it. So how do you go about, you know, making that connection with the students that are having these type problems?
Yes, ma'am. With the information I've given Mr. Everson, our recruiting department, that's who I always tell every parent who I get a phone call from who's interested and comes to the program. I direct them to the recruiting department first. That's where it starts. It starts with filling out the application and getting the information from them. After that, what they'll get is the interview dates, and we set up interview dates. For our cycle in February, it'll start in December. So we'll give them a list of the interview dates and the locations. So we'll interview everywhere from Shreveport and Minden to down to Lafayette in that area.
Okay, so am I understanding you to say, as a special needs teacher, if I'm having some students with some behavior problems, how do I know about your program? Do you have a way of notifying?
You can,
I mean, that's what I'm not getting.
There's a phone number right here on this.
Yes, ma'am. 1-800 Camp Kids is our number, but we have pamphlets.
School.
We usually
No.
I have a programs coordinator here, Mr. Sean Hatcher. What usually happens
I
is
can't hear you. Could you hold up just a moment? Okay, now, my question was, how does the various schools, how are they notified about your program? Because you say you have a person that recruits.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
what is their method of recruitment? Are they going to each one of the schools? How are they able to identify the students in the various schools? How is that done?
No, we don't go to the schools and
It's after they've dropped out.
because of the high school dropouts. How the schools know about us, majority of the phone calls I receive from principals, they know about us, ma'am. But
The recruiters do go out and they do touch base with some of the counselors at the school and let them know that it is aware, because you do have some that are still in school that
Right.
are issues, and teachers and the counselors will know that who would benefit from this program. But as far as directing straight to the school, no, we try to go, the counselors and the recruiters talk that place. We go out to nonprofit groups, out to churches, out to all and tell them about YCP and have that available and all the materials that they need to recruit the cadets. But the counselors at the school level are told about it. The counselors do make a visit all over the
That's
state.
what I wanted to know.
Yes,
How
yes.
are you connecting with the
Correct,
schools?
correct.
So it's done through the counseling
Yes,
department?
yes. And a lot of the principals, after you make contact there for a while, the principals get aware of it, and the principals call, hey, we need some help, can you help this one and this one? So it's just word of mouth after that really takes off, but the recruiters are always hitting the counselors with information.
It's the outreach too with the community service programs that we participate in also.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for being here today, and for every member of the council, you've got a bit of information in front of you that gives you some follow-up and contact information for the program. And for those who may be at home, again, that phone number, if somebody is interested to learn more, is 1-800-CAMP-KID.
Yes, sir. 1-800 Camp Kid.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for
Thank you,
being
sir.
here, and it's a fantastic program. We really appreciate y'all coming down and telling us about it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman McCullough. you want-
Yes, I see I would have to say Sister Linda Scott, who's a community activist here, who's been a community activist here in the city of Shreveport, a great role model, especially for young women. I just wanted to recognize her and tell her it's always a pleasure and an honor to have you in my midst, Ms. Scott, and I'm sure you're with some guests as well, but good having you here today.
Okay, Mayor, before we get back to you, I want to take a little executive privilege here for a minute. Pastor, would you come up so we can hear you and we can kind of let him know, Mayor, what we're going to do with this situation. He missed the 2 o'clock meeting because he said that he didn't know about it.
Like I said, I didn't know about it. I
Don't
didn't
mean
know
you
that I was to come.
Oh, well, okay. You knew about the meeting, but you didn't know that
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
supposed to come.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he knew about the meeting, but he didn't know that he was supposed to come.
And I'm willing to come to a meeting. That won't be any problem. And I can come back here. That's no problem. I'm willing to do that. I'm not in a hurry, so I'm willing to do that.
Pastor, now, I don't think it's gonna be another meeting unless the mayor sets another meeting. I don't, the council is not gonna set another meeting, and now, Pastor, Mayor, when he gets through, if you want him to come to another meeting, you know, you the big boss man, and you can let him know what, because all of this will come out of the administration. I wanted to give him an opportunity. He wanted to come down and talk to us again about the situation, and we heard him on yesterday, and we're gonna give him 6 minutes today, because the rules are 3, but man, if you don't mind, we're gonna extend it to 6, and because I know you're a very compassionate person. Pastor, it's left up to you now. Shoot.
Okay, now, it was admitted that they were wrong for picking up my cars. I had tried to get in touch with Mrs. Williams about my cars. It had been raining, and to let her see the cars. And if she called the house, my mother was staying at the motel at that particular time because a tree had fallen on the house. It wasn't abandoned, but she thought the house was abandoned. But there was a portable thing out in front of the house, and like I said, the house was being fixed because of the tree. And they agreed that they were wrong and had got in touch with the claim department for paying me for my cars. They wanted my towels. It took me a little while to get them to risk management. Then the man told me I had waited too long. I told him that there was no time limit on the paper that was given to me from Hammond and Gaynor. And I would get in touch with the mayor about the situation to write another claim. Then it came up with the city attorney that they had sent me a second letter, which I never received, and which it should have, here's the letter here that the city attorney gave me, but I never did receive this letter, and it should have been a certified letter. So, and that I know nothing about, and I knew nothing about this letter, because if they would have written me this letter and I had received it, I would have immediately got in touch with them as to get paid for my vehicles. So that was the bottom line, and I think if I give this to an attorney, this would help. This will be one of the main things that will help me to get my money. And all I'm asking for now is $5,000. But if I have to get an attorney, there are going to be attorney fees, and I'm going to get more money because I had put labor in those cars, and they're worth more than what I asked for. So this is where I'm at on the situation, and I was told that I could come to the city council before I get the attorney. That's the reason why I wanted to come to the city council first before I went to the attorney.
Pastor, when you said they, I mean, who was they? Was that CEO Dale Sibley, or was that the mayor over there, or was that Miss Dorothy back there? You know, who was they?
Well, Mr. Shanway, where it is right now, sometimes I don't like to lie, and I don't want to, you know, but if you all can't do anything about it, then, you know, there's going to be no problem. I'll go to the next thing that I need to do. I've tried to express what have happened. They admitted that they were wrong for picking up my cars. Then I was supposed to have got paid, so I went to this claim department. The man said I waited too late, and like I told him, there was no time limit on the paper. So in the future, I think that need to be a time limit, if it's a time limit, print on the paper. And this should have been a certified thing, that if they send it out certified, you know, I didn't get it.
Well, Pastor, like I told you earlier, it's,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
sorry. Time.
okay,
moved.
we're gonna, it sure is, but we're gonna, let me say this. Pastor, it's at our hands at this point. It's, now, if you wanna, have a meeting with the mayor and the CEO, I would suggest to you at this point to ask the mayor if you could make an appointment to meet with him and the CEO, and he has the prerogative to give you a time or date that he would like to meet with you. But we have no process. There's no process in place where the city council can pay you your money back or to get you your cars back. The only thing that we can do is listen to you and just refer you to the administration over there. I mean, we have no recourse.
Okay,
Would
but,
you like to ask the mayor
before
for a
I go
meeting?
see,
Councilman
before I go
Shine.
to an attorney, would you mind us discussing on this one particular issue at some time, sir?
Pastor Francis, I think my position has been clearly stated, and that is the process that the administration has already undertaken is one that we stand behind, and if there's any other action to be taken on this matter, it will only be based upon you taking some additional action on your part that may involve some litigation. But we believe that the process that has been put forward, what has been established in the record, is clear and is fair, and we stand on it. And that's why, as we stated to the council on yesterday, if there's another process the council wants to initiate separate from what it is that we've already concluded, then we will obviously engage in that. But with regard to where it is that we believe this situation stands, both in terms of what the CEO has stated on yesterday, as well as what Ms. Farnell, as well as what Ms. Kelly up in risk management has also attested to, we believe to be sound, to be fair, to be proper, and to be prudent.
Councilman Shine.
Yes, ma'am.
I went up and I spoke briefly with Ms. Kelly prior to the meeting today. And I mean, kind of what she explained to me was July of 2010. I think they asked Reverend Francis to provide proof of titles to the cars. And according to Ms. Kelly, it was a 2-year span in between being asked July the 10th. 2 years passed prior to him providing actual proof for titles. And I think what the real issue here is with Mr. Francis is that there was no form of communication as far as a time frame in which he had to produce evidence of titles to these automobiles. And according to Ms. Kelly, you know, she's saying that he's indicating that he didn't get a letter, but he actually knew and he had been asked to produce evidence of titles. And because it was 2 years, they can't go back and, you know, reopen. That's what was explained to me. They can't go back and give him special attention at this point, because then they would be getting off into something that was a bit illegal. So I'm thinking that at this point, Mr. Francis, Reverend Francis, you might have to consider your attorney
Okay.
from this point on.
Okay.
I think that's where we are with the 7 cars.
Okay.
Based on the fact that, you know, within a 2-year span, you didn't produce evidence of the titles. And again, Councilman Shine and the council, this is what I met with, I mean, we addressed this in Attorney Scott's office as well about 4 or 5 months ago. It was an issue regarding the time frame in which he was asked to produce evidence of the title.
Was Reverend Francis present?
Yes, sir.
Oh, he was present at the
Yes,
meeting?
I
Okay.
called the meeting on his behalf.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I guess from this point,
Reverend,
yeah.
we're gonna give you one more shot, and you know, we'll give you another minute, and that's it.
Well, like I said, the main thing, and the mayor said he didn't want to look at this, like, I never received this letter. Never. Should have been a certified letter, and I never received it. So now, you
Now,
know.
when you say that, look at the mail over there, because
Yeah,
that's what
see
the
this
decision
letter?
is
I
going to
never received it. Should have been certified, and I never received it, man. Never.
Well,
Well, let me
Now,
ask
you say
a
you're a
question.
fair
Should have-
person, even though
should
you
it
say
have
you
been
sit in a big seat,
certified?
but you say you're a fair person.
Should it have been certified? I mean, Mayor Glover, should that letter have been certified? The letter that he's saying that should have been certified, that he never got a copy of.
I think you hit on the crucial point. Now, we're talking about a span of 2 years, that cars would have been held, that rent would have been due, and what have you. I'll let the lawyer speak in terms of what the process is. I think the point is that what has been afforded to Mr. Francis has been, Reverend Francis, has been more than fair. It also is representative of the fact that we are trying not to have folks to end up with neighbors who end up with cars and cars and cars in their yards. We have a process that allows us the opportunity to be able to address that. And if we begin to make 2-year exceptions and then go back and retroactively look to try and compensate folks based on their failure to act over a span of 2 years, then we ultimately end up with a program and a plan that is largely non-functional.
and Mayor, I think you have probably explained that 4 or 5 times. And if it's all right with you, we're going to move on, and if Reverend Francis wants to meet with you, that's between the two of you all, but we've done about what we can do here, is giving them due process. Reverend, we appreciate you coming down, and your next step would be to, I guess, for going to court, get your lawyer, and you can always sue the city if you think that you were not treated fair, or if you think you were not given due process. But we're about as far as we can go at this point, and we're just gonna keep on talking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and the mayor said what he said. Reverend, we appreciate it. Now, Mayor, we're back to you on awards and recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will do all of our communications pretty much one and in total. Obviously want to start by expressing the administration's deep condolences at the passing of a woman I think that just about all of us knew and loved. More importantly, that we respected and appreciated, and that's Lillian Priest. As I mentioned on yesterday, when I got to City Hall back in 1990, Ms. Priest was in the mayor's office. She soon went on to become, I believe, the first woman to ever become a department head for the city of Shreveport. From there, went on into the private sector and was always someone who was caring and concerned about the city of Shreveport. She spent the latter portion of her life not only as a local businesswoman, but also as an elected member of our school board, served twice as president of the Caddo Parish School Board in a 10-year span of time, and as was expressed at her homegoing service on Saturday, was essentially the glue that held the Caddo Parish School Board together. So just want to express in honor of her memory and to all of her family and friends and loved ones how much we are deeply saddened, but also very grateful to have had the friendship, the counsel, and the support of one Lillian Priest. Also, Mr. Chairman, on yesterday, had the great pleasure of being in attendance at the press conference out at the Skybox Independent Stadium, announcing the 4th year of an effort that has been made possible by the great leadership of Shelley Regal and Patrick Wesley and all the folks at Parks and Recreation, and more importantly, a great number of volunteers and some significant corporate sponsorship that has come from Denny Rogers and the folks at the Landers Group. We will be hosting here in Shreveport on this coming Friday and Saturday the 4th installment of the Battle on the Border. And Mr. Chairman, council members, it is not just a figurative battle on the border. It is a literal battle of the border. And it includes not just 2 states, not just 3 states, but now actually 4 states. Teams that will come from Texas, and Shelley staff, correct me when I misspeak, that will come from Louisiana, will come from Texas, will come from Arkansas, as well as Alabama. And we're talking some of the very finest high school football talent anywhere in the country. And it will be 6 games over 2 days. The first 2 will be played on Friday. The final 4 games will be played on Saturday. One $10 ticket gets you into all 6 games. It also serves as a great fundraising opportunity for the schools that are involved. The 2 area schools that accepted the challenge of engaging in this high-level competition include the Yellow Jackets, the alma mater of one Councilmember Sam Jenkins. They will be taking the field, and they will be joined by a team from across the river, my wife's alma mater, the Parkway Panthers. The other balance of the teams will come from Lafayette, New Orleans area. In fact, probably one of the most heralded teams will be the Patriots of John Curtis. I think that they have some 20-plus state championships that they have managed to achieve over the years. It's going to be 2 days of great fun, 2 days of great football, and we certainly encourage folks to come out and have a great time with us out at the Independence Stadium. Lastly, Mr. Chairman and
Mayor, just before you move on from that,
yes,
now, I'm told, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a kick and pass contest by Arthur Thompson and Oliver Jenkins.
Actually, it's a clinic, Mr. Shine.
Oh, it's a clinic that's going to be put on by those 2. Okay.
Who's doing the kicking and who's doing the pass?
Oh, okay. Go on there. But thank you, though.
I have an image of one of them playing Lucy.
Okay.
I'm not sure whose side I want to be on that
Yeah.
I have an image, I just can't figure out which side of that face I want on it.
Okay.
Lastly, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I want to ask 2 ladies to step forward, and, along with Bill Gooden, as well as I think Chief Shaw is probably out in the ante-room area, and would ask him to come in as well. Back in March of 2013, myself along with Bill Gooden and Chief Shaw, we were invited by the folks at Rutgers University to come up and be a part of the first ever Excellence in Policing Symposium. It was about 3 or 4 days worth of intense classroom presentations that included some of the finest minds in law enforcement and academia from around the country. And I think there were 6 departments that were chosen to come and be a part of it. They picked up all of our expenses and housed us I'm trying to think of the city where the hotel was. We were that's where the venue was. I think we were in not Teaneck, but anyway, the conference itself was held in East Rutherford, Secaucus. The hotel, Mr. Chairman, was in Secaucus, New Jersey. The actual conference was held in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Is that the reason why the chief got his suit on today?
What now?
Because he was going to be recognized?
Absolutely. You know, the chief is sharp every day, but I think, and knowing that these 2 ladies were coming to do a site visit with us here in Shreveport, he made sure that he was going to be especially sharp. I think that. Specifically, Mr. Chairman, it is why Deputy Chief Huddleston has been wearing a suit for the last 2 days as well.
Is the deputy chief here?
He's out in the ante room as well. I think he may join us here in just a second. But we were a part of 6 cities who were invited to be a part of this initial effort, and it was quite an honor. But now it wasn't just an effort to bring us together for those 4 days. It was also intended to be a follow-up, an effort that would have substantial follow-up and ultimately document some issues of concern in some cities, but also help to detail best practices in some others. And so we're delighted that we believe that we may end up on the best practice end of the equation. But these ladies have traveled here to have a chance to be able to visit the city of Shreveport in general and to engage with the Shreveport Police Department in particular. Mrs. Burgess, her background extends to the West Coast, where she was a part of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for a number of years. But she is a native of Louisiana, having been born and reared just south of here in Alexandria.
I can see that Creole in her. Yeah, I can see that Creole in you. That's right.
Well, now, Deb Knapp is not from Louisiana. She's a graduate of the University of Notre Dame and is affiliated for a substantial period of time with Rutgers. So she
I can see that Catholic look in her. Oh, okay, yeah. That's right. If you're from Alexandria, that's right. You were a Catholic.
But I wanted, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, to invite them to come in and share with the council a little bit about the Excellence in Policing initiative that we've been involved in, and to share with the council of the city some of the things that they've observed.
We'd like for them to have a
so
word
to
say.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you folks today, and we won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to speak from the position of project manager. The 6 cities were chosen with a great deal of forethought, discussion, both with the national experts and the folks from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. It was a cooperative agreement between the Department of Justice, Rutgers University, and the New Jersey State Police, and we were looking for 3 national cities and 3 New Jersey cities that had progressive leadership, both on the executive side and on the police management side. And Shreveport was one of the cities that we selected, and Shreveport, Mayor Glover came right after his knee surgery and hobbled into our workshop day after day, as well as Chief Shaw and the Chief's Assistant, Bill Gooden. And Shreveport has really embraced the spirit of we were looking for departments who want to make a good department better, and that's what Shreveport has done. And we're really pleased with everything we've seen from last March through today, and since Rachel's more of an expert on that, I'll let her get into some of the specifics. But you should be proud of your police department, your mayor, and all of the folks who work for Shreveport.
Rachel, come on home, girl.
Okay. Well, before they came to New Jersey, we had been meeting about what kind of program we could put together to teach cities how to stay out of trouble with the federal government, to not have the Department of Justice come in and have to do investigations. And that was preceded by a meeting with Attorney General Holder, who had invited several of us that had been involved in cities with DOJ investigations, of which I was one of their subject matter experts since 2000, and I've been to many cities and worked with them. And just to find those kind of components that a police department could incorporate to keep them out of trouble, to keep them, they don't want to have to go out and do these investigations. So this project was put together, and as Deb said, Shreveport came and they were just, wide open to all that they could learn. And since then, we have found that they've been wide open to learning for a long time. Because when we started to look into the programs that they have in existence and the things that they're doing and how they're constantly trying to see what they can do new and better for the community, we find that they are way ahead of the curve. They're way ahead of the curve. And some of the things we've looked at is like the civilianization programs, where they have the community liaison officers out in the community dealing directly with them, building the foundation and the lines of communication. Excellent. These are not new processes. These are old ones that people stopped doing. And they're doing them, and it's working for them. One of the most recent things they did in hiring a crime analyst to provide intelligence to the patrol officers who are going out, to give them directed patrol, which I was doing at my stations in 1987, 88, directed patrol, actually using a crime analyst to say, this is where crime is occurring, this is what you need to do, we need to put more people over here. They're doing that. Because you cannot do policing without intelligence. At least that's what intelligent people think. You know, you can't just go ride around for 8 hours and not do anything but what you just run upon. You should be looking for where problems are occurring. They're doing that. They're doing the proactive kinds of things that every police agency should be doing, and that will keep them way above what's going on in this nation right now. And we all know that there are some really tragic incidents that are occurring throughout our nation, and it's bringing bad publicity to all law enforcement and to a lot of cities. So they're already doing these kinds of things. So their policies and procedures are being updated, are constantly being studied. That's important. So a progressive law enforcement agency like the one you have here will really avoid being the subject of a DOJ investigation, and more importantly, we hope will avoid being the subject of a major horrific incident, you know, which is a tragedy for everyone. You've got a really excellent police department here, and they're doing some great things, and all I can ask is you keep supporting them.
Thank you, Deb. I know both of them are probably going to ask for a raise after all of that, but they deserve it. Any council members have any observations, questions that they want to make? If not, Chief, y'all want to say something?
Just a few things. First of all, we'd like to say thank you to the Excellence in Policing folk, because they actually came down to visit and did what they said they were going to do. And I've been involved in a lot of different programs, and this is actually one of the programs where people say they're going to do something, they actually do it. And they've been more than helpful with us, and that's all we can really ask. And as I spoke with them earlier today, said we have a department that's not perfect, we have a department that's good. But we always know that good is the enemy of great. And so when we relax on good, we can't get any better. So we're always striving to do better things and be a better police department. And that's these kinds of individuals that come in and help us to be better at what we do. And I publicly want to thank you guys for allowing us to participate. And guys, I would look forward to some type of raise. No, I'm just joking. Me too. But, yeah, everybody wants a raise. But anyway, guys, again, we want to thank them for allowing us to participate in the program. It's a great program, and we would like to be one of the hallmark police departments throughout the country. So,
Chief, we appreciate it, and y'all do an excellent job for us.
Bill's always got something to say.
Okay.
No, it's been great participating with these folks and getting to talk to people from around the country to see what programs, what things we can do here. And I think Chief Shaw hit the nail on the head there. We're always looking at ways that we can do business better, ways we can serve the people of Shreveport more efficiently and in a better fashion. So this really has been a boon to us and, in turn, the citizens of Shreveport.
Ladies, we appreciate you all taking the time out of your all's busy schedule to come down and to visit with us, and we appreciate the invitation that you all gave to the city of Shreveport. We always try to grow, we always try to be progressive, we always try to do better. And like the chief say, if you just sit on good, you never get the great. And all of us trying to be great, trying to do a better job, and we just appreciate you all taking the time to come down and be with us. Now, how long will you all be here?
Just today. We leave tomorrow.
Okay, well, I know
We leave tomorrow.
the mayor's probably going to take you all out to one of his good eating places and spend some money, so appreciate y'all coming down.
We won't hold him to that.
No, you got to do that now. All this money he's making, you got to do that, and I know the chief would be glad to show you all around our fine city. And since you're from Alexandria, you know about all this Creole culture that we have around here and this Creole food that we have. So,
I do.
So you all enjoy yourselves, and the chief will put you in his nice new shiny squad car and take you all around. Chief, thank you. Thank you all again for coming down.
Mr. Chairman and Chief and ladies, before we all wrap up, I want to express on behalf of the administration thanks and appreciation to this council as well as the previous council, because while obviously the administration is responsible for managing and administering and leading the operations of the city on a day-to-day basis, the council is the one that ultimately sets the policy for the city of Shreveport by the approval of the budget. And it has been because of the support of this council and the previous council for the initiatives that we have offered for this police department, that much of what attracted the attention of these good folks is possible. As I noticed as we were doing the budget presentation for our employees Thursday before last, while we've had some static employment numbers in lots of areas of our city operations, the one place where we've actually increased the number of employees is in the police department. And that is in direct recognition of what it is that we wanted to do in order to be able to achieve the kind of success that this department has actually achieved. You've got a department that's gone from 675 personnel in terms of total employment in 2008 to 739 in 2014. That represents almost 40 additional police officers, but also in recognition of that civilianization that was talked about, it represents individuals that were also employed to go out and be a part of the community engagement team, and also positions that allowed us to be able to take commissioned officers and put them out on the streets as opposed to being behind a desk. It's given the chief and the leadership team at SPD the kinds of resources that they need to be able to go out and put in place the kinds of proactive policing techniques that affords us the opportunity to be able to effectively engage and consistently engage with our citizens in a way that has created the kind of partnership that's resulting in the kind of success that's getting us the attention of folks like these good folks of today. So thank you to this council, thank you to the previous council, and most importantly, thank you to our citizens who are the ones who ultimately end up being the ones that go out and partner with us and allow us to be able to develop the relationships that end up putting us in a position to make Shreveport a better and safer place.
Again, thank you all very much for coming in. All right.
Thank you, ladies. That will conclude communications from the administration
Okay.
at this point in time, Mr. Chair.
Any other council member?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a citizen to contact me. I'm sorry, it's eluding me somewhat right now. You may recall at one time, I believe, there was some agreement between the city, I think, and the railroad to close off a street, and I think you all had a meeting about it. It may have been in the vicinity of where Schlumberger is at. Of course, I'm a little bit all over the city these days, and not necessarily in District G, but they were raising questions about the fact that maybe this company or some company that was trying to locate out there did not locate or may not have been doing the operation at a size that was that they perceived that they were going to do. And their concern was whether or not the roadway will be opened up again. They feel like they're boxed in back there because of the railroad track. And I just simply asked today, maybe someone need to revisit the issue.
Where is that saying?
Out on Mansfield Road, somewhere.
Winegate?
Kingston. Winegate. Yeah.
Winegate.
But that was part of it.
I simply asked today, I don't want to take up too
I
much
headed
council
towards
time
Southern
today.
Hills.
So that we have a lot to do.
Someone
Someone could revisit that issue.
Before you get to
and
Southern.
possibly talk with some of the community leaders out there about what the status of that road closure is all about. I promised them that I would bring it up. And if that's in someone's district, I apologize. I just have to say it.
No, I don't,
I'm
I
a
think
little bit all over the city.
Maybe
these days.
Ron.
A little bit of,
Your district.
a little bit of Ron's, a little bit of Councilman Shine, a little bit of
Shine.
Councilman Corbin's, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Not sure where it is under the new lines, but that's where it was under the old lines.
Right.
But definitely appreciate the opportunity to comment on that. If you, and we can offer you some response if you feel like it this time. The situation involved a economic development project involving Schlumberger. Schlumberger is obviously big in the energy sector, and they are very heavily involved in the Haynesville Shale. The level and extent of what their job presence out there right now, we'd have to check with the folks at the Louisiana Department of Economic Development. But what happened is that they wanted to be able to have a road closing so they could end up with a rail spur that would necessitate a road being closed. It was also in conjunction with the opening of a rail crossing on the southern side of Shreveport Industrial Park, essentially for us to be able to offer the ability for the southern end of the rail crossing in Shreve Park to take place. We had to provide the folks with Union Pacific Railroad with 3 rail crossing closing. One of the ones that ended up ultimately being passed by the council, along with I think 2 additional.
Yeah, Levy Street.
No, Levy wasn't closed. That was one of the ones that we proposed to be closed. But Levy, council ultimately chose to close Wingate and 2 that are over in the off of Mansfield Road. Is that Hollywood and Kettle Heights?
It's in Kettle Heights.
Over in Kettle Heights. So 1 in Kettle Heights, the 1 on Wingate, and I think the 3rd is out in Reeser, if I'm not mistaken. And so those are the 3 closures that were required to be provided to Union Pacific in order to provide the 1 opening to have a rail crossing in Shreve Park. The crossing for Wingate was tied to what was projected to be an additional 500 jobs being added to the local Schlumberger operation. They made a substantial capital investment at that facility. I know that there has been some substantial hiring. There may be some flux in that based upon the shift in the drilling activity that's gone from the Haynesville Shale to some of the both oil and natural gas play that's being done in some other parts of the state and part of the country. But I don't see a set of circumstances where that would end up being a closure that would be reversed and reopened. We did offer a scenario that would have actually provided for a tunnel, an underpass that would have provided additional access that we couldn't come to any consensus with the council on at that time to go forward with. So you did end up with those 3 closures: Wingate, the 1 in Kettle Heights, and the 1 out in Reeser that facilitated the 1 additional rail crossing for Shreveport Industrial Park.
Okay. And for the record, that was the previous council.
That was the previous council. Was not this council. Was the previous council.
Right.
And Councilman Chine and Councilman Webb were members of that council. The other 5 of you were not.
All right. Thank you,
Those
Mr.
would have been activities that would have taken place in a 2010 timeframe. And that Schlumberger announcement, in fact, had the governor was here for part of that announcement, and it was a big to-do and was a big part of the Haynesville Shale activity that was going on.
Well, I thank you for the information. I believe they were just seeing if there was a scenario that would open it again, and I'll pass this information along. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Farnell, please.
Do you have anything, anybody have any issues today?
I just wanted to, while Reverend Francis is here, Ms. Farnell, as I stated on yesterday, we went out and we visited that site on 2 or 3 different occasions, and it still seemed as if though there are some issues with the cleaning of the property in between his house and I guess the Moore's property. I don't know if we were able to identify whether or not that was personally owned property by the Moores or the city of Shreveport. So I just wanted, there are still some complaints about that not being there, but concerning no clearance.
The property that's adjacent to it that belongs to the Moores.
Right.
Property standards did cite them. We went out and cleaned that part up, and so that has been done. The property that he cited that was behind his house,
right.
We did research and found out that those 3 lots, which is a drainage ease, that has been given to Mr. Harris in Public Works. And,
okay. Because as I understood from his,
that, and I did advise.
As I understood from his mother, of course we called her Miss Polly all my life. Once upon a time, the city would come out and spray that area, but that's not being done now. Also on, I think I showed you along with Stan, on, is that Norton Street, Reverend Francis? I think it's the street he lives on. We were talking about the overhanging trees. Willie Mays, the overhanging trees.
That's going to be Public Works.
That's Public Works too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, Stan, I'll just, that's still an issue too, the overhanging trees on Willie Mays.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, anybody else have any information from Ms. Farnell? If not, Ms. Farnell, we appreciate you coming down. Okay, Mr. Sibley, I don't want to overlook you. You have anything you'd like to say at this time?
I'll just note a couple of things for the record, Mr. Chairman. All of you should have received an electronic copy of the sales tax report, and that, as I noted, it did not include the other revenue chart, but we'll add that as it comes in. I will note sales tax overall for the parish are up 7.4% for the year, 11.1% in the last report. For the city specifically, we saw an increase of 6.9% in the last report over last year, and overall for the year, a 5.1% increase. I guess the relevance of that is that in terms of our budget, we only projected less than a 1% increase in sales tax, so that looks very well. I'll note that hotel motel tax receipts are up for the past month, and they have been kind of up and down all year. Motor vehicles are showing a return. They've been down for the past 3 months in terms of sales tax revenue, but this month they're up 3.9%. And you also have a sheet on the Mall St. Vincent collections in case anyone's interested there. That percent has generated a little over $271,000 so far in 2014. And I'll note that if you look at the categories by business class, the greatest increase for this month was in the restaurants and bars. So apparently folks had a lot to celebrate lately.
I wonder why it was up so in the bars.
Have no rationale, no explanation, but they're up, and we appreciate that.
Town now.
Well, I mean, it's because every week you're out there agreeing to one of these ordinance changes. I mean, what do you expect?
So if there are any questions or any additional information, we'd be more than happy to provide. As I indicated, the other revenue chart, we'll supplement that as it comes in. But if you notice from the last chart, we had really collected almost all that we had budgeted in those major categories: property taxes, occupational license taxes, but we'll supplement that information as soon as we get it.
And you know why the hotel and motel tax went up? Mr. Thompson had a family reunion.
That's right.
Okay.
He needs to have more then.
Oh, okay. Okay, Jeff.
There was another category that I noticed, it wasn't the most increased, but considering how small it is, it's probably as a percentage of its total the most increased is health services.
Health services, yes.
Is that, so I see, over last year, it's a very substantial increase. Is that
privatization?
A normal number? Or?
Privatization. Now they're taxed on a lot of things that previously they were not when it was a nonprofit. But that's been the major difference in health services.
Got it. All right, thank you. Ms. Scott, we don't want to overlook you. You have anything you'd like to say? Okay, and I believe Mr. Jean has somebody to fill in for him.
Mr. Clark is
generally at the second meeting, but we want to see if.
Well, Mr. Clark is here. He did offer some comments yesterday.
Is he still here?
He's still here.
I'm sorry, sitting right in front of me. Mr. Clark, you have anything you'd like to say? No, I don't. Mr. Thompson, we don't need him to repeat him, do we? No.
I think you're good, Alan.
No, Mr. Clark, thank you very much. We have no public hearing, right?
That's correct.
Okay, do we have any legislation that needs to be added to the agenda?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
How about you, Mr. Sibley?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have some public comments. I believe we have one here from Miss Gwen Phelps. Where's Miss Phelps? Is Miss Gwen Phelps here? Yeah.
There's a Tammy Phelps.
Tammy?
No, not Tammy, not right with Tammy. We do have, but Miss Gwen, I believe GWN. That's not Tammy, is it?
Yeah, this is for the, it's gonna come up on the zoning issue.
I understand. I understand, and I believe I can read pretty good. Everybody hollering Tammy, Tammy, Tammy. Tammy, that goes to show you how popular you are. Okay, and this is Miss Gwen Phelps right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Miss Phelps, we can give you an opportunity to speak now, or you can speak when your subject matter comes up. Now, what would you like to? Would you like to speak now, or would you like to? wait until your subject matter comes up.
Well, there were going to be some additional people coming.
Well, please come on, Miss Phelps.
Okay, I can go ahead and speak now, and if they
Yeah,
come,
yeah.
they can speak also?
Right, go ahead on, speak now.
Okay. Oh, you're here? Okay, all right, we good to go.
Okay.
All right, thank you. My name is Gwen Phelps, and I live at 6635 Santa Monica Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana. And I'm here today to speak about case number BCA 7214, 4242 Pines Road, and I'm here in opposition to the store opening at this location with the sale of packaged beer, wine, or liquor. Studies have shown that a high exposure to various forms of alcoholic beverages affect the public health, safety, and quality of life of communities. The locations that currently sell packaged beer, wine, liquor, various forms of alcohol along Pines Road now are the Brookshire store, the Walmart store, Thrifty Liquor. There are 2 7-Eleven stores, 3 gas stations, and 3 pharmacy stores, and all of these locations are between West 70th Street and Jefferson Page. These are all within a mile to a mile and a half of the proposed location, and adding this additional location would give us a total of 12, which is pretty concentrated. The store is at the entrance of the Tierra neighborhood, which also serves as access for 3 adjacent neighborhoods. It is where school buses stop to pick up and drop off school children. It is where children pass by to get to the Bill Cockrell Park or to go to the library. It is also heavily used, this area is also heavily used for walkers and joggers. In the past, when this store has been open and operational, I have observed personally all sorts of people standing around or parked or sitting in cars or just loitering. This has been observed by me over the past 29 years, which I've lived in this area, as I pass going to work or going back and forth to run errands. This also includes the time that Mr. Carey operated this store. There are many research studies concerning the effects of excess beer, wine, or liquor outlets in communities. One finding I found was that neighborhoods with a higher density of liquor stores have higher numbers of childhood accidents, assaults, and child abuse injuries. In California, in a California study, it was found that each new added liquor store in a neighborhood resulted in 3.4 more assaults per year. In New Jersey, researchers found that the number of liquor stores was the single most important environmental predictor of why some neighborhoods have higher crime rates than others.
Mr. Chairman.
So move for additional time.
Miss Phelps, okay. It's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by Councilman Rose McCullough. You got 3 more minutes, and you know, not trying to cut you off, but let's see, because you got some more people that want to speak too on this.
I'll be brief.
Okay.
This was a stronger indicator or predictor than unemployment or the median income. We in our community are trying to be proactive in trying to keep additional beer, wine, alcohol out of our communities. This proposed site sits adjacent to an apartment complex that is right now crime-ridden. And so we ask ourselves, should we make it more available just for the sake of convenience? I say no, especially when it's done at the expense of others. I ask you to please reverse the ZBA's decision and do not allow us to have additional beer, alcohol, like liquor in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe next we have is Mr. Tim. Where's Tim? Okay. Tim, what's your last name?
Booth.
Booth?
Yes, sir.
Come on up, Tim. Sorry I didn't wear my reading glasses. Tim, I believe you're on the same subject, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
Chris and I are partners. We're the ones opening the store.
Okay. And Tim, I forgot to say this a minute or two ago. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And if the council want to give you some extra time,
Okay.
Councilman Jenkins will make the motion.
Okay, appreciate it. I'm a businessman here in Shreveport. Me and my partner, we own a few businesses. We opened up Fully Stacked downtown. I also own Plex Fitness Center in Shreveport. So me and him are not going into this just on a fling. We've been in business for years, know what we're doing. We're not going to have any loitering. First of all, it's not a liquor store. We are a convenience store, just doing packaged beer, low content wine. So it's not a liquor store. I don't see letting the store just sit there empty. As far as a community, that doesn't look good on the community. We are providing jobs, taxes for the city. We are very insistent on no loitering there whatsoever. So I don't understand why the backlash we're getting from it when we're out there trying to do something really good for the community.
Okay, Tim, we appreciate it.
Mayor, if you want to take the ladies down to the restaurant tonight.
Bacon native.
Tim, you look like you might have been a running back for LSU.
I wish. I wish.
With Tim, we appreciate you coming, and how about Billy Wayne?
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Brother Billy Wayne.
Council Chair, Mr. Shine, Honorable Mayor Glover, and to you, the members of this esteemed council. The zoning board's decision permitting the sale of certain alcoholic beverages at a store located at the Pines Road Tiara intersection is and was the correct decision based upon their interpretations of their duties. They felt, I'm certain, that legally, and if you want to say constitutionally, it was their job to approve this request because the request met zoning requirements. Yet there are many times in history when things have been policy and legally correct, but have been withheld because of the moral will of the people. Those here today to speak against the sale of alcoholic beverages at this store feel strongly that the sale of these beverages will be detrimental to our children, our families, and our community. Add to this the fact that many of those doing the approving and none of those proposing to sell live in the community, and the message is sent that if it's not affecting me or my family or me or my community, it's okay. This should not be the case in city government. One zoning official made the statement that if the community doesn't want the store selling the beverages, don't buy, and they will leave. To this, I reply, don't approve, and they won't sell. According to statements made, the proposed buyers of this store are proven, well-respected business persons who operate restaurants, fitness centers, and the like. What would be the problem with placing one of these type businesses at this location? The message I'm receiving with this is a type of stereotyping which would not permit one to profit as much from eateries and fitness centers in our community as selling alcohol will. This is not the case. As a council, you can send a strong message today. That message is, to the profit-minded individuals, this store and its sales may be viewed as economic development in our community. But to the persons who live and raise their families in this community, this is seen as a threat to their well-being. What message will you send today with your vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Now, Ms. Tammy Phelps. May I hope my wife isn't watching this, but I do want them to know I know the difference between Tammy Phelps and Gwen Phelps. I've been knowing both of them for a long time.
Both lovely ladies, Mr. Chairman.
Well, my wife might be listening, but you're right. Okay. Tammy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. I just stand before you today asking for support of the business owner in this venture. I stand in support of the business owner's ethics, and I am familiar with the leases and other ventures, and I trust that they will continue to provide professional development adhering to the city ordinances. Let's begin to eradicate our eyesores of vacant buildings in our cities, continue to promote economic development, and revitalize our communities and our neighborhoods. I thank you for your support.
Tammy, thank you. Okay, I believe we have Mr. Chris Anthony.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Anthony. I'm one of the owners of Fully Stacked Restaurant downtown. Everybody's focusing on the liquor issue of the gas station we're trying to open, but it's a convenience store for a neighborhood, so they don't have to go as far. We're selling gas. The liquor part of it's a small percentage of it. And it's not even hard liquor, it's the small packaged liquor and wine. Also, I've been in this business with dealing with alcohol for over a decade now. I've never had one citation. I've always followed the rules. I'm very strict. And before that, I was a law enforcement here locally and in California. So the loitering, stuff like that, doesn't happen on my watch. Also, like I said, it's an abandoned building. So, I mean, we got to think of which one causes more harm to the community. A store that can open up and bring taxes and revenue and jobs to the community, or an eyesore where everybody's talking about crime happens in abandoned buildings instead of places that are open. Have a brightly lit area, new clean background, safe for everybody to come to. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Miss Ivy W. Latin. Ivy, did I get all of it in? All right then.
Good afternoon, Shreveport City Council. I'm here to represent Shreve Memorial Library, and of course...
I'm sorry, did you want to give a name first, B?
Yes, sir.
For the record, please give your name.
The name is Ivy Woodard Latin. I represent Shreve Memorial Library. Where this particular store is probably proposed to be located, it's like right down the street from the library, and we just asked the council to take into consideration that there is a library. I don't know how many feet, but I think you have an ordinance that says that you can't have liquor and a library in so many feet. And we just ask that the council take that into consideration.
Did the ZBA review that in there when they made their decision? Just as a point of information, I mean, did they have they looked into if because we do have an ordinance? I mean,
I'm not sure if anybody's looked into it. I'm just here to.
I think Alan said
there
yes.
is a library right up the street.
Okay, but it is ultimately material, and we can talk about that later.
Right.
And we'll wait till we get to, rather than public comments, but that's definitely an issue that I'm interested in discussing if it's...
But of course, the library is for economic development, but we don't do liquor.
Okay, but what I understand that this is really not a liquor store, is that right, Mr. Clark? It's really not, we're not talking about zoning a liquor store. This is a convenience store. Right, this is right, so it's a difference there. Right, I believe, right, and like you said, it's a major difference, but we'll get into this when we get there. I believe we have Mr. Roy Carey, one of our young entrepreneurs in this city. He's made a lot of contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members, to the mayor. I want to thank you for allowing me to come down. Mr. Chairman, if I can, may I submit to the council on behalf of the council's certified and notarized letters on behalf of the daycare owner, if I can submit.
Give it to B.
While I'm doing it, Mr. Chairman, if I could too, I would like to submit a petition of 1,800 or more people who live in the area that we sought out, asked, would they like for the store to be open and sell packaged liquor? They all stated yes, and I'll get to that when we get into my discussion.
Please do. Please,
Thank
give it to
How many
B.
signatures you say you have?
Roughly 1,800 signatures on our petition. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now, again, let me just, I think it's a lot of fear going about this whole issue. But let's just talk about the reality of this if we can. The store, of course, last year we got it, we tried to go with the zoning, and we had the same thing come up. And that's why we went out and got a petition, because the daycare was the issue. Well, when we opened the store, daycare was there. Of course, the laws were different, and they changed, and the store was closed. So that's why we're back before the council for rezoning. But I do want to say, this is what the building looked like. If we can get the screen on.
Press that button at the top right-hand corner. Is it on? Yeah. Press it again. Okay. I think you turned it off. Okay. I think it's on.
This is, and again, I live in this neighborhood. I've just built a $500,000 home. I lived out there. Before I lived there, I lived right down the street from the store. As a matter of fact, Councilman Shine and Councilman Glover, you're aware of the fact that that area had no park, and we had to override a veto to get West Shreveport Park, because I'm an advocate of quality of living, nice housing, nice community, and everything I've done has been to revitalize a neighborhood, building new homes in the Allendale community, building new homes. I own several properties in this city that are well, and they all meet property standards. So my idea of a place is not that it would deteriorate the community. Of course, Circle K, Brookshire's, and the Gulf Station is right down the street from the library. They are the same businesses, and they sell beer, and it's not a liquor store, it's beer and small contents wine. That's how the store looked. This is how the store looked after we opened it. We well-lit area, had.
Mr. Chairman?
So move for additional time.
Okay, it's been moved. Go on, Ross.
Thank you. We well-lit the area, had well-lit, we did greenery and we did landscaping around the building. It looked very nice. Of course, after it closed down, it went back to what it was. It's generated no revenue. It's been sitting there. Everybody says, well, we don't mind you open a convenience store. We just don't want you to sell beer. Well, we're not saying that you got to buy beer. I go in Brookshire's. I don't buy beer. My children go in there. They don't buy. It's a matter of what your choice is. But if you're in a convenience store business, to be competitive, you've got to at least be competitive with the others to stay in business. And that's why the request for the beer and the small contents of our wine is necessary. The thing that I'm concerned with is the petition that I got signed has several ministers, business people who live right down the street in the area who have no problem, who've all said that they would wish and see that the store would be open and generate revenue. And I think that this council has seen that last year. This year and a half has passed, the daycare didn't open. If the store had been open, Mr. Sibley, I think your revenue would have been a little higher in taxes this year if we'd had that happening. But of course, I'm going to ask this council to look at this. The zoning board heard the members, they came and voiced their opinion. But I do say that they don't speak for the total community. That's why we went out and got the voice of over 1,800 members saying that they do believe and they do support and they live in the area. And you look at the addresses, they're all in that area. I would urge this council that if you would consider and give this business an opportunity to work. You have no better fine business owners in the city than the two gentlemen that you just met. I think their reputation and their record stands impeccable, and they deserve to have a chance to run an operation as any other business owner would do. And I would ask this council if you would give them consideration. Thank you for your time, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Carey, I'm just trying to recall the last time this came before the council. Did I hear you say, and I'm trying to recollect, that the big issue was the daycare?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. from talking to council people and just saying afterwards why we couldn't get the support, they said, well, we didn't know that the daycare was opening, and we thought that it was clear of the daycare. And so at that time, the lady hadn't opened it, and I talked with the city attorney, and the city attorney advised me that the law says that until the daycare is up, operated, and in business, that you can only apply that state law. So she hasn't operated, she hasn't opened, and that's why I had the notarized letter by her, because I figured last time the lady sort of used that to say that she wanted.
I think Rose has a copy. Don't
Yeah,
you have a
yeah,
copy of it?
yeah.
This is it, the change of, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she changed the location
Yes,
of the
says she
daycare.
changed the location, and this is official notification that we have both have voluntarily agreed to seek another location to establish a business. They've left their phone numbers, and they have it notarized. And I want to erase that because I want the council members to know that the zoning board did not violate any laws, did not bend anything. They followed the guidelines, and I would that this council continue and give every business a chance. The last thing I would like to say is that we just saw the evidence of our fine police department. Mrs. Phelps made an accusation that I'm not aware of. If you go back and look at the history of this store, Ms. McCulloch, there was never a citation given to us while we were open. Not for lottery, not for selling to a minor, not for anything. This store, when you look at the history of it, has a clean history. And I would that they open it back up. The people in the area wants it there. It's convenient. The Gulf is right up the street, and people walk from the apartments right up there to get their beer and walk back down there. And so we just think that if a gas station has tanks under the ground, that it ought to be there and operate as a service station and a convenience store, and that's practically what we're doing, and that's what we would ask the council to give us a chance to
You're going
do.
to be selling gas as well?
Yes, ma'am. They'll be selling Gulf branded gas, and they'll be selling all the other items that are Circle K and the Gulf station. And I just want to say again, Mr. Chairman, that the Circle K, I live right down the street. The Circle K is on the corner of Jefferson Page Road and Pines, and the Gulf is right up the street from me on the corner of Greenwood Road and Pines. Those stores hadn't contributed any more crime to the neighborhood. You don't find beer. You go to the baseball games, the basketball games, you go to the stadium out here, they sell beer. Beer is not something that make people act a fool. If the people who are going to act a fool do, they're not going to drink it there because it's not a place where you consume it. You just purchase it like you would do at a convenience store. You go to your house, go to home and watch a game, and you sit down, and if you choose to have a cold beer, you do. My pastor shops in Brookshire's all the time. I see him. I never see him picking up beer, but he didn't lobby against beer being sold because I think everybody's intelligent to say, if I want it, I buy it. If I don't want it, I don't buy it. But give me a fair chance that I don't have to walk further to do it.
All right.
Any other questions?
Roy, thank you. No more questions for Roy. I don't want to overlook anybody. Did I not receive a request to speak from anybody who want to speak on this? Okay. If not, Mr. Thompson, at this point, we're going to move on. Confirmation, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Sibley.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we do have 4 individuals up for confirmation today. For Assistant City Attorney, we have Ms. Ingrid James.
We'll ask Ms. James. Ms. James, to please stand. Okay, Ms. Scott, you want to bring up and see if she wants to say anything? Did you, Ms. Scott, did you advise her what our pay scale is?
Yes, sir, she agreed to take the job anyhow.
Oh, okay then, well, she must be all right.
Members
Okay.
of the council,
We need your help, Mr. Shine.
Wait a minute.
Sounds like a good hire.
Wait a minute now, Mayor, wait a minute. Okay, go ahead
I'd
on.
like to introduce to you Ms. Ingrid Janelle James. I believe you all have received a copy of her resume. She's a 2007 graduate of Southern University Law Center, and she is also a graduate of Southern University undergrad. She's been admitted to the practice since 2009.
I won't hold that against her because of Sam over there. Just, you know, Sam's and I'm a tagger. I'm a Grambling tagger, so I won't hold that against her.
He's
Please.
recruiting though, Mr. Shine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Please, would you like to say something?
It is a pleasure to be here and to meet everyone, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to get started working in the city attorney's office.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Ms. James. I found her to be a very brilliant, bright attorney, and I think she's going to be an asset to our city attorney's office. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Look forward to giving you my confirmation today.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Sibley, Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority.
For the Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority, we have 3 individuals. You met Ms. Jackson yesterday, but I believe she returned today. I did see her.
I believe we would
earlier.
probably like to meet Ms. Jackson again.
But we also have Mr. William Bradford.
Where's Mr. Bradford?
Yeah, please come forward, Mr. Bradford.
Bradford.
And Mr. Scott Wolf.
Mr. Scott Wolf.
And Ms. Jackson has returned.
Ms. Jackson, we would like to meet you again.
Mr. Sherman?
Just before you said it, I told Mr. Archie Hall that Ms. Jackson was down on yesterday to be confirmed for the Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority, and believe it or not, he gave his approval. So, man, why you laughing? I just, now,
Just hope you're not trying to talk about any of my votes up there, Mr. Sherman.
I don't know. Now I'm a little concerned about voting. I may have to reconsider my vote. Now that you told me Archie's for, now I got to really think again. I was pretty dead set on what I was going to do until you told me that about Archie.
Oliver. Now you can't say that about our friend. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Obviously, this is a board that there's been quite a bit of focus and attention. You also are aware that we received letters of resignation from the previous members. This is something that we're delighted that folks of this caliber have decided to be able to offer themselves. They have a rather challenging set of circumstances to weigh into, and so we certainly want to express our thanks and appreciation for them being willing to accept this challenge, and certainly ask for the council support of their appointment.
Why don't we start, Mr. Bradford? If anything you'd like to say?
Sure, Chairman Shine, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to serve the citizens of Shreveport. I know that this is a daunting task as it stands right now. However, I think with the other individuals selected for appointment today that it's something that we're up to, and I look forward to the opportunity again to help the citizens of Shreveport in any way possible.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
Mr. Chairman and the council, look forward to serving on this authority. And Judge Petrus, some of you may have known Judge Charles Petrus years ago, always told me if I ever had an opportunity to serve for the city to go ahead and take that opportunity, and I certainly want to do that and help the city in any way I can, and looking forward to helping.
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Chairman Shine. I'm glad to be able to be back today and appreciate the opportunity to serve.
And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the diversity. You got one black male, one white male, and one black female. That's what Shreveport is all about, diversity.
Absolutely. Great young talent supporting and contributing to the city, and the title of what may be the screenplay I'm working on.
Oh, no.
Two lawyers and a banker.
Well, look out,
You've also picked a good skill set here, we will need 2 lawyers and a banker to handle what's going on in this committee. So.
And Dale, you see him, he's always looking down the road.
Always.
All right. Forward. Thank you all very much.
I certainly look forward to giving my vote of approval to each of you today. I do think it's a talented group of appointees. I'm going to ask our clerk to please provide each one of these individuals with copies of ordinance number 24, and resolution number 52. By way of background, and I'm sure you've heard, our city employees have been asking for a pay increase. Many of us do not feel as though the 2014 budget is going to allow that. There's going to have to be a discussion, I think, going forward. What we have been advocating, or what some of us have been advocating, is a one-time $1,000 pay award to our city employees. We felt like some of the funds that are now under the control of the Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority could be used for that purpose. A portion of those funds could be used for that purpose. I'm asking you, as you take your positions, to please take a look at the proposed legislation, give this matter some consideration. That is the pool of funds that would be needed to give these employees a one-time $1,000 pay increase. Not asking you to state your position on it at this time. I know it's something that needs to be looked at, but I do want to be on the record asking you to take a look at it and give it your consideration, because a part of the decision will be coming from your board with the Shreveport Home Mortgage Authority. Once again, congratulations, and that's why they pay you the big bucks. Thank you.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the council? I'll accept the motion at this time.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins, that we would confirm the appointments that have been presented to us by the administration. Again, Mr. Mayor, you and Dale, I appreciate the diversity that you all put into this. It's time to vote.
Is this vote including Ms. James?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
If Ms. James doesn't mind being included in this group.
Three lawyers and a banker.
Yeah, that's it. 3 lawyers and a
It's getting better every day.
All right, let's vote, please. Okay, you all have been confirmed with a 6-0 vote and 1 absent. Again, thank you all very much, and may God be with you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Thompson, we're down to where you can finally take over.
Mr. Chairman, we have nothing under number 8. Number 9, regular agenda legislation. 160 declares the intention of the city of Shreveport to proceed with the issuance of not to exceed $75 million street improvement bonds in one or more series for the purpose of financing the cost of constructing, paving, and improving public streets in the city, including utility relocation and incidental sewer and drainage work required thereby, making application to the Louisiana State Bond Commission for approval of such bonds and otherwise providing with respect thereto. And there is one amendment.
What is the pleasure of council?
Postpone.
Second.
And as I discussed yesterday, and the mayor has offered an opportunity to meet with us and discuss this further, we just haven't had that opportunity, and so certainly, I think we've all kind of thought this was going to happen today, and way to move forward.
Schedule-wise, it did not work out because Mr. Chairman?
Let me do this. Okay. It has been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins and second by Councilman Mike Carvin that we would postpone this piece of legislation. Now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. Oliver Jenkins, Councilman Jenkins is absolutely correct. I've been working with staff to be in a position to be able to detail what we're proposing to you all, and so it would have been a little bit premature to have tried to detail anything fully prior to even now. We're still coming down to the final points of it. The only thing I would ask that the council give some consideration to is that Resolution 160 does not commit us to doing anything except applying for the opportunity to be on the agenda for the State Bond Commission in October. There would be a series of other resolutions and what have you that would have to follow before there would be any formal procession of trying to advance this effort. And so if we don't pass it today, we won't be able to make the October Bond Commission meeting. And so if there would be any possibility of the council giving consideration to possible passage of this, in light of the fact that we would like to be able to make that meeting, and then knowing that we have to, as you have with the other items that are on the agenda today, if this were to actually become something that the council would be committed and supportive of, you would have to have all of the other ensuing hiring resolutions and everything else that would give it a greater degree of specificity. So
what you're asking for is a substitute motion so we could pass this and get it to the bond.
If the council would, again,
yeah, right.
If the council would be open to that, because that is all that this allows us to do, is to ask for a place on the October Bond Commission meeting. Not that we would commit to issuing any bonds, not that we would be hiring anybody, not that we would be committed to doing anything else, and it affords us the actual time that we need to be able to sit with council and with staff and to detail what we think would be a proposition that gives us a chance to do something about the street.
Councilman Jenkins.
Is there, the Bond Commission meets every month, is that correct?
Yes, they do.
So, I mean, So conceivably, we could wait till November.
Conceivably.
Okay. We have a motion to postpone. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Okay, this motion passes. This looks good. This is the first time we've had any diversity. The passes to postpone with a four votes for and 2 against. All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We'll still look to follow up to detail. And I think we have until Wednesday to be able to make that application for the State Bond Commission meeting in October in the event that we would like to go forward.
Please do. Please do, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Mr. Thompson?
161 ratifies the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement with the parish of Caddo relative to the receipt of funds to purchase and install smoke alarms.
What's the pleasure? It's been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin, second by Councilman Jeff Everson. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, all vote yes, opposed no. We're together again. 6-4 and 1 out of the chamber.
163 accepts dedication for Bernstein Avenue in Paradise Church subdivision.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Jeff Everson, second by Councilman Carvin. Okay, I'm sorry, you all sound so much alike. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. What? Okay, that is 6-0, 1 out of the chamber.
164 declares the city's interest in certain adjudicated properties as surplus.
Can I get, what's the pleasure? So moved. It's been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. Okay, all in favor vote yes, opposed no. All right, passes with the 6-0 vote.
165 suspends certain provisions of Chapter 106 and Chapter 10 relative to dispensing, sale, and/or consumption of alcoholic beverages at Shreve City Parking Center for the Susan G. Coleman Race for the Cure.
So moved. What's the pleasure? Okay, so moved by, all right, you all in favor of that? All right, okay. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. All right, with 6-0 vote.
Sorry, I was busy. Only when we're running, Joe.
Oh, Roy, you see it, huh? They in favor of it now.
Gotta work up a thirst.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Oliver says all right when you work up a thirst. Okay.
166 authorizes the city of Shreveport to proceed with the issuance of not exceeding $35 million
What's the
general
pleasure?
obligation refunding bonds in one more series.
Been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Mr. Mayor, they're together this time. All in favor vote yes, opposed is no. All right.
And much appreciated, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's 6-0 vote in favor.
167 authorizes the city to proceed with the issuance of not exceeding $75 million water and sewer revenue refunding bonds.
Pleasure. Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Everson, second this time by Councilman Rose.
Just a quick question on that. Are we issuing, is that a refunding or is that a new? That's a refunding? It's not, okay. Thank you.
All right, let's vote then. Okay, we together again. 6-0 in favor of this piece of legislation.
168 authorizes the employment of special legal counsel to provide legal advice, counsel, and representation for the city of Shreveport.
So moved. Been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. All in favor vote yes, opposed is no. All right. This piece of legislation passes with a 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber today.
169 amends resolution number 91 of 2012 to authorize the expenditure of citywide street improvement program funds to include design work for the 1700 block of Nicholson Street.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Mike Carvin. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote. This piece of legislation passes with a 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber.
Chairman, you can now take up introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to September the 23rd, 2014.
We're ready, okay.
Authorizes the mayor to execute a second amendment to the landfill lease agreement with Renovar Energy Corporation. 171 declares certain city property to be surplus property, authorizing the donation of the property to the Shreveport Police Department Unit Mounted and Bicycle Support Group. Those are the only two for resolutions.
Been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Did I get that?
That's correct.
All in favor, vote yes. Opposed is no. This legislation will be introduced. It will lay over for 2 weeks. At that time, it may or may not be acted upon.
Mr. Chairman, we are now under introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to September the 23rd. 93 amends the 2014 general fund budget. These are changes within a department. 94 amends the 2014 general fund budget. Those are the only two.
So move.
It's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by Councilman Rose McCullough. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote at this time. Legislation has been introduced on a 5 vote, 2 out of the chamber. Legislation will lay over for 2 weeks. At that time, it may or may not be voted upon.
We're now into ordinances on second reading and final passage. 82 amends the 2014 grants special revenue fund budget.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Carvin. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's all vote for it. Is Mr. Serio still here?
Is this introduction? This is final passage on the...
Huh? Oh, he just left out. Tell him we'll get to him, but that was not the right time for him. Okay, let's move.
I was just telling Mr. Jenkins, it's the $12,500 for the smoke detectors.
Okay.
Still committed to my vote, but thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay. I'm not wavering in my support of the smoke detector.
All right. All right. Mr. Thompson, next, please.
83 creates and establishes parking restriction anytime on both sides of the 2600 block of DuPont Street.
Been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Carvin. Questions or discussion? If not, let's vote for this. This piece of legislation passes with a 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber.
Number 84 provides for the incurring of debt and the issuance and sale of not exceeding $93,500,000 of general obligation bonds, Series 2014 of the City of Shreveport, prescribing the form, terms, and conditions of said bonds, designating the date and place of payment of said bonds, providing for the payment thereof in principal and interest, and providing for other matters in connection.
What's the pleasure? Been moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. The young one, I'm told, Sam. Now, I don't know how much truth is in that, but...
Neither do I.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You hear that now? All right. All right. Let's vote. Passes with a 6-0 vote. There you go, Sam.
Authorizes the Shreveport Airport Authority to dispose of 2 aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicles as surplus property.
Been moved by Councilman Carvin, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed is no. I see we have somebody here from the airport, I believe. Okay, then anybody want to ask any questions?
I just want to make sure he's not driving the ARF trucks. As long as he's not driving those trucks, I'm all for it.
Oh, okay then. All right. Oliver says he's all right. But Serio, we're going to get to you in a few minutes. One of our former colleagues here on the council who did an excellent job. Phil, it's good to see you. You don't look like you've aged a day. And I know being up here with Cedric and Dale and all these other people, I know I probably have aged 20 years. I'm sorry, move on, please.
I believe that was a 7-0 vote. Is that right, Mr. Chairman?
No, 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber. That's okay. That's why we got to get those new glasses for you.
That's why we have a chairman.
Yeah. All right. We got to get those new glasses for him, Dale.
Number 86, amend certain sections of Chapter 66 of the Code relative to the employees' retirement system and to otherwise provide with respect to...
I'm going to make a motion to postpone. We have a couple of administrative issues we've got to work out on the language and what was actually passed in our board, and we recognized yesterday that that needs to be tightened up.
Okay, it's moved and second by Councilman Jenkins and Carvin. Any questions or discussion? Let's vote. This piece of legislation is postponed with the 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber.
Number 87 will amend and reenact Section 22-26 of the Comprehensive Building Code. There is one amendment. The amendment deletes a paragraph number 6, because it was redundant.
What
So
you
moved
gonna-
on the amendment.
Okay, it's been moved, on the amendment by Councilman Corbin, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. All in favor of the amendment, let's vote. It passes. Now, can I get a, with a 6-0 vote, can I get a
So moved
motion
as
on the
amended.
legislation as amended? It's been moved by Councilman Corbin, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Okay, let's vote.
We gotta go.
All right, that passes with the 6-0 vote. Legislation, it passes as amended.
Number 88 is a zoning matter C-52-14. It rezones property located on the northwest corner of Linwood Avenue and Fulton Street from B2 Neighborhood Business District to B3 Community Business District with MPC approval.
It's been moved by Councilman
Second.
Everson, second by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. Any questions or discussion? If not, let's vote on this legislation. It passes with
please.
It passes with a 6-0 vote, one out of the chamber.
Number 89 is a zoning matter C-54-14. It rezones property located on the northwest corner of Caddo and Common Street, surrounded by Douglas and View
It's been
Street.
moved by Councilman Everson, second by Councilman Mike Carvin. Any questions or discussion at this point? If not, let's vote. Okay, this piece of legislation passes with a 6-0 vote, one out of the chamber.
5-1.
Chairman, need your glass.
I'm sorry, with the, now, I need some, new glasses. With the.
Well, I'm wanting to make sure you're on your toes.
Yeah.
Can
You know, Oliver does that, Oliver does that.
I really
from time to
don't do
time.
that normally.
Yeah.
I think we just have some difference of ideology, though I certainly support the intent of the
Okay,
legislation.
okay. Mayor, you hear that, huh? Ideology played a part this time.
Number 90 is a zoning matter C-57-14. It rezones property located on the northwest corner of Quinton Street and Hearn Avenue from B1 to B1E, which is a buffer business extended use district limited to a snow cone stand only.
It's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins that he would, and second by Councilman Everson. Any questions or discussion? Sam, you'll have to go out there and check the snow cones out, okay? That's with a with a 6-0 vote, one out of the chamber. I want to make sure I got it right this time, Howard.
Number 91 is zoning C-58-14. It rezones property located on the northeast corner of Edgemont Street and Lyon Avenue from R3 Urban Multifamily Residence District to B1 Buffer Business District.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins.
And just a quick discussion based on yesterday. So this piece of property is surrounded by B3, B2, and B1. I mean, so it is kind of a holdout that they're turning into a parking lot, and it's a relatively small piece of property, so the issues I had yesterday have since been resolved, so. that's
Let's
the
vote.
reason.
Okay, this,
Sam
his older brother.
Zero vote, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that passes with a 6-0, the 6-0 vote, one out of the chamber.
Number 92 is a zoning matter C-59-14. It rezones property located on the east side of Kingston Road at the intersection of Bellevue Road from R1D Urban One Family Residence District to B3 Community Business District on the western portion, and from R1D Urban One Family Residence District to I1 Light Industry District on the eastern portion.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Mike Carvin. Can I get a second?
I'll
Jeff?
second. Yeah, second.
Okay, now let's discuss it.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had a question from yesterday. Can Alan or somebody, can y'all explain to us the site plan? I just wasn't sure about the way this is divided up, being that it's changing to two different zoning classifications. I was just curious how each one is proportioned, I suppose.
The application, Mr. Everson, was for an office and warehouse, and the office was in the B3 area, and the warehouse was in the I1 area. The MPC board did not want to extend the industrial use all the way down the length of the property, so that's why it's a split zoning, because the B3 would be sufficient for the office use.
And then, so, does that mean the R1D is still gonna remain R1D in the middle of the thing?
I didn't see the R1.
I mean, the only reason I ask is, the way the map appears,
It's hard to see what exactly the track placement is on this map.
The entire tract was R1D. The application was from R1D to I1. The board decided to split it, to not take the I1 all the way throughout the entire property, but to allow for the B3 for the warehouse.
So the B3 is kind of the
B3 is
the
sort of
frontage
protecting.
area, I guess you could, I mean, that's
Yes,
sort
sir.
of- Okay.
And it's protecting it from just turning into a total industrially zoned piece of property.
Okay.
I got you, okay. So it's, I see, the plat makes it a lot more clear than the existing zoning pattern.
It
Go
does.
to the next, you gotta flip it around one
Yeah, I
more.
see that now, the back
The
portion.
back part is R1, that's why, okay.
And they commonly do that to ensure that they don't just do large tracts of industrial zoning if not necessary.
All right, let's vote.
Ellen, don't go too far.
Yeah, Alan, we got some more questions coming up here.
Okay, that piece of legislation passes with a 6 and 1 out of the chamber. Okay, Mr. Thompson?
I believe that those are all of the matters on the regular agenda.
Do we have any table legislation that, Dale, you all have any? Council members, do y'all have any?
Not aware of any, Mr. Chairman.
If not, Mr. Thompson, let's move on.
We did the property standards appeals on yesterday, and we took up one of those at the beginning of the meeting also. We are now under the MPC Appeals and Zoning Board of Appeals, DAC 72-14, the southwest corner of Pines Road and Tierra Drive. The board voted to approve the application with one stipulation concerning the site plan.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council?
I want to make a motion to overturn the ZBA decision and effectively deny the special exception use as it relates to the sale of beer and wine, as well as the variance in hours, opening the store at 5:30 to midnight.
I will second that motion, subject to discussion, only because I want to move this along, and I
appreciate the second.
That's just so that we can actually discuss this issue and it doesn't die for a second, so.
Okay, so it almost died. Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins that, I believe what you're saying is that we would overturn the ruling by the MPC, and I think it was seconded by Councilman Oliver Jenkins.
That's
for the purpose of discussion. I wanted to make sure. that we
But I mean, I
had
want to make sure that we're clear. We got to move this piece of legislation one way or another, and we
Right.
got to have a motion out there to do it. So.
There you go.
You know, from where I sit, as a council member, I had to think about the health, safety, and welfare of the community. I think that's something that I am charged to do. You know, this matter came before us a couple of years ago, and I know that there was a daycare center that was involved. I believe that building is still there, it can still be used for a daycare center, but I know it's not operational. But I made some comments at that time that I still feel are relevant even now. If you look at Pines Road, talking about a mile, maybe a mile and a half between West 70th Street and Jefferson Page. You have no less than a dozen different outlets that's selling beer, wine, liquor, either for consumption or as packaged. To me, that area is oversaturated with alcohol sales. And they all upon one another. I also pointed out at that time that this particular location causes me some concern because on the east side of Interstate 20, where you have the Walmart and the drug stores and some of those convenience stores, you know, they are in more or less in a business cluster. But when you get to this location, you're really getting into the heart of the residential communities. You got 2 or 3 residential communities there. Representing that area, you know, for the past number of years and meeting with people in that area, seeing how hard they're working to make the neighborhood a good place to live. I just don't see how adding additional alcohol in this area is going to do anything worthwhile at all. I just really don't, and I want, you know, I tried to keep an open mind about this subject this time when it came around, because I know how hard Mr. Carey is working to try to open the store, and I'm not necessarily trying to bash his efforts, but when you look at the overall effort of the people that are living in that neighborhood that this store surrounds, I just feel like you're going to have a negative impact on the health, the safety, and the welfare of those residents there. And I just can't, in good conscience, go along with adding additional alcohol to the area. And I'll never understand for the life of me. I just really never will understand this. How people who do not live in the neighborhood think they know better what's for the neighborhood than the people that are there every day, raising their families, trying to take care of their grandchildren, trying to keep their property safe, trying to keep crime down. I mean, you across town, but you know better people in the area that are investing every day. I've just never understood that. I don't understand that now. The bottom line on it to me is the area is oversaturated. Every corner you could go to, you could buy alcohol. So it's not a great need for it. It's not like there's a lack of it. It's not like somebody's got to drive 2 or 3 miles to get somewhere to get some beer and wine. That's not what you have here. In this particular store, you're really in the residential area. If you look at your map, you'll see you got an apartment complex back there behind this store. That place has been a hotbed for criminal activity. It continues to be a hotbed for criminal activity. Now you want to add alcohol to it? There's been drugs, there's been shootings, there's been burglaries. Now you want to come in and you want to add alcohol to it and then want to convince people that it's okay, that I'm doing something for your neighborhood to bring that in. There's nothing else you could bring into the neighborhood to make it any better. On this side, on the west side of the interstate, where this particular location is at, you have your residents who are living there. You have a library that's there. You have a park that's there. You have the children that are walking, you know, catching a bus from the relatively close location to where this is at. The Tierra neighborhood, as compared to the old Western Hills and the new Western Hills areas, if it was any one neighborhood that needed some help out there, is this one. It's this particular neighborhood that surrounds this store. I just don't see how additional alcohol coming into an area that's overly saturated with it, coming into the heart of the residential areas. I just don't see how you can see that as a positive for the health, safety, and well-being of the people who live there. Then we're talking about the hours of operation. You're wanting to open at 5:30 in the morning to midnight, when usually you're open from 7 o'clock to midnight. You got some Circle K's that are not open like that. They're not open for, that's open past 11 o'clock in a residential area. I mean, What are we doing to our neighborhoods? What are we doing to our communities? 12 outlets in a 1 mile, a mile and a half, that's not enough? I've seen us deny where there's been just maybe one store in the radius and another one is coming in. I've seen this council deny people who stood at that microphone and said, there's not another store very close to me. I've even heard you, Mr. Chairman, tell them you're not going to bring any more alcohol into these neighborhoods this way. We're not going to do it.
Not a convenience store,
This
a
is
liquor store. This is not a
The
liquor
last,
store.
not to overtalk you, the last time we had a vote that was a convenience store, it was located on Laurel Street. Your speech was, you're not finna bring some more alcohol into this neighborhood. They were trying to get the very same thing that this store is trying to get now. That's a matter of record. But this is my point, because everybody's got to vote.
What was the matter of record now? What did you say?
This was the store, it was a convenience store. It was on Laurel Street, right down from Good Samaritan Funeral Home. The gentleman came in and they were trying to sell beer and wine. And you don't have a store that's real close to them unless you go back up Portland and get back up to Lakeshore. We said, no more alcohol coming into these neighborhoods this way. That's what we said. Now we have no less than 12 in the same area. When is enough gonna be enough?
One more.
When is enough gonna be enough? I just think you ought to think about that, and I know everybody's got to make a decision about this, but I do think that we are within our rights to make decisions that will impact the health, safety, and welfare of that neighborhood. We're within our rights to do it. And at this location, you take a good look at your map, I'm saying to you, you're not getting off into the heart of the residential neighborhoods with alcohol. Some of the rest of it is more of a business cluster or whatever it may be. But now you're going down the road, past the library, past the dialysis center, near the park, near where people live. And now you want to come and you want to bring some more alcohol into the area, right in the heart of this neighborhood. And I just can't in good conscience go along with it. But that's my position on it, and I'd certainly like to have your support on it. And I do believe that we have a right as a council to make a decision on a case like this. It's not something that somebody's got some right to. We need to make a decision that's in the best interest of the people that live over there and are working over there and investing. That's what this decision needs to come down to. So please give it some consideration and understand that bringing in yet another outlet for additional alcohol sales. The lady that came up here and spoke said she's been out there 29 years. You've had people been out there 40 years. And I know about the petition, and I understand it. I went out there the last time this petition was done and knocked on a few of those doors. And a lot of those people, number one, didn't even remember signing a petition. Some of them were saying that they thought it was just to have a store open, wasn't certain about. They just thought beer and wine went along with a store opening up. They didn't know that you could say, I want a store and didn't want beer and wine. I took a little time to do that. But my point is simply this. They elect us, they send us down here, and they ask us to look at these things. So I'm actually taking a very good look at this now. Just know what it is you're voting to do. You're bringing in additional alcohol to an area that is really over. You won't find that a similar situation like that in almost any other area of this city, what we're building up out here right now. Probably won't find it in almost any other area of the city, what we're about to do here today. So think about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilman Jenkins, you're through. Okay, Councilman Oliver Jenkins.
I got a question for Alan, since I asked him to kind of stay up near the front.
Please,
Okay. Now, I know that there's some unique things about the city of Shreveport, but I didn't realize that if you're in a B3, if you want to sell packaged beer, which is what the application says, even in a B3 and you're a convenience store, you have to have a special exception request for that. All sales of alcohol in the city of Shreveport are special exception. Special exception. Okay. So there's, in terms of hours of operation, it has nothing to do with what the usage is. It just has to do with the zoning, right? And each district has a set of operational hours, and no, sir, it doesn't.
Okay, and then lastly, I can't remember who it was, came in and spoke about a library, but obviously this is beyond the distance from a library, right?
And so often, Councilman Jenkins, persons don't understand how the measurements are done. They're not done as a crow fly or in a direct line. The measurements are actually done from the nearest point of the building and out to the sidewalk, as a person would walk up the sidewalk to the property line of the protected use, which is the library, daycare, church, school, public park. And that's why initially, if the daycare center had been open, then this would not be allowed to even be before you.
Okay, I mean, I had to send one to the state Supreme Court about walking that distance, I think, in my first year on the council, so I'm familiar with it, but I wanted to make sure when she brought it up, if that it already indeed had been checked.
Yes, sir.
I will say just for the rest of the council, I do believe that Councilman Jenkins' point is well taken. I've got a similar issue in my district, and I do think on these, we'll call them special exceptions, that the people are most impacted are the people that are living closest to the enterprise. And if those people are against it, I am one that probably leans in their favor. So, that's all I got to say.
Councilman Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, I was concerned about, I was asking Roy Carey about the situation as far as the distance from the library to the actual store, and of course that's been clarified. And Mayor Glover, I'm sitting here being reminded of how long I have been in politics and residing within the Martin Luther King area. And so this has been one of my biggest oppositions. And it was due to the request of the Martin Luther King Association. We got enough beer. We got enough liquor. And so, I mean, consciously, I mean, it's a good idea, but then it's not a good idea due to the request of the citizens and the area in which I live, in the Martin Luther King area. You know, my opposition, one of my fights have been, since I've been in politics, was no more liquor, no more alcohol. Because MLK is saturated. I mean, as I hear Councilman Sam Jenkins talk about, and I think even Gwen talked about the different locations of liquor, and this was some of the concerns of the citizens in the MLK area along what I would call the Martin Luther King stroll. We are just saturated, you know, with liquor stores, beer, wine. And so, in listening to Mr. Jenkins, who's really the representative in this area, and addressing this same situation within District A, especially within the Martin Luther King area, I'm gonna have to support Councilman Sam Jenkins' decision at this point.
Councilman.
Thank you, Chairman Shine. And Alan, I have one more question. Councilman Oliver Jenkins beat me to the punch on a couple of questions. I know that some of the neighborhood folks that have come up have talked about beer, wine, and liquor. As I'm looking through our documentation, all I see is packaged beer.
Right. That is
am I
correct.
Correct in that?
Right. And generally, that's what convenience stores consist of. Right. Okay. They sell packaged beer and wine coolers, low alcohol.
I wanted to make sure I understood that, just because sometimes I have a little history with MPC appeal votes, and I wanted to be sure I'd ask all my questions and had that right. As they're currently zoned, they can operate as a convenience store without beer and be open from 7 to midnight.
That is correct. When they came before the MPC, one of the prevailing factors that they shared with the MPC was that in order to be competitive with the other retail outlets in the area, that was one of the needs that they had, that they did not feel, and that's something that comes before the MPC on a regular basis, that if a use is coming in and the other uses in the same area, in the same vicinity, have an advantage over them, that is almost impossible to dollar out. And that was the basis on which the MPC, the Zoning Board of Appeals actually granted the packaged beer sales. They listened to all the concerns of the neighborhood quite impassionately and cared, and they've had a history of when there were life safety issues involved, denying these type applications. But on this one, they felt that only because it was making it competitive with other uses in the area would they approve it. And the hours of operation, one of the reasons that they approved the hours of operation, the variance in hours, was that it would provide light, because one of the concerns that the citizens had were children catching buses in the area. And one of the concerns, one of the reasoning behind their approving the early hours would be that it would provide lighting for children catching the school buses and provide shelter in the event of inclement weather or rain and so forth, and in the event of cool temperatures or cold temperatures, that would be shelter for the young people to utilize. I'm just speaking what the board shared.
Thank you, Alan. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know we've had similar instances like this come before the council, and it seems that the bottom line comes back anytime we have a convenience store is we can't make it as a convenience store. If we can't sell at least beer, we go broke. Right. And I think Alan kind of hit on that. Up until the first part of this year, I had a satellite office just a half-mile from this location, and I traveled that part of Pines Road weekly. So I think there's nothing worse than having a closed-down building in an area that, this one seems to be haunted a bit of how is it going to be reopened if it can't be reopened just as a convenience store and gas station. So I think that's a dilemma. But I hear what the neighbors have said. I hear Councilman Jenkins, please, and I think I've decided what I'll do.
Okay. I usually agree with Sam, but I'm going to have to disagree with him this time. I mean, I can't see where I look at this as being a convenience store and not a liquor store. Now, if this was a liquor store, I would vote totally against it, and this is what it seems like. Some people have tried to make it be a liquor store. MPC voted that it was a convenience store. So, my vote is going to have to be this time to uphold the MPC. I hate to see that eyesore in that community. Like it was stated, in case of bad weather, if you got kids who catching the bus or whatever, this is a place for them to go in and be out of the weather. I've always been against putting more liquor stores, but this is not a liquor store. This is a convenience store. And this is what we do. We make tough decisions. That was one of the questions that was asked today at the mayoral forum. And I kind of look for you, but I know you was taking care of business in the city. Can you make tough decisions? I mean, this is, to me, is really not a tough decision. This is a business decision. And I think we have policies in place, we have laws in place, so if they start doing something that they don't have any business doing, they know that they're going to be out of business. I understand you got some folks for it and you got some folks against it. At this particular point, I look at it as being a convenience store. You go in, if you want to buy beer, good. If you don't, don't. And I think it would be an improvement, because we need to get that eyesore out of our community. Now, unless you have some folks in that community that want to buy that, tear it down, and go with a shoe store, clothing store, whatever. But I look at it as being a convenience store. Now, are we ready to vote at this time? And the vote is, if you vote yes, that means that you want to overturn the decision of the MPC. If you vote no, that means that you want to uphold the decision of the MPC. All right, let's cast our vote.
Say that again, Mr. Shine.
If you vote no, that means that you want to uphold the decision of the MPC.
Okay.
If you vote yes, that means that you want to overturn the decision of the MPC.
I got you.
All right, we're asking for the vote. Okay, we have a 6-0 vote to overturn the decision of the MPC, and you have one vote that want to uphold the decision of the MPC, so the MPC decision has been overturned. Am I right?
I believe it's a 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1 and 1 out of the chamber. All right, Mr. Thompson, let's move on from here.
Mr. Shine, I believe we're now under reports from officers, boards, and committees.
Anybody, any council member want to give a report from a committee?
I don't feel compelled to hear the risk management unless there's something.
Well,
The risk management committee that was here today?
yeah, he was scheduled to be there today, Reverend Francis was scheduled to be there today, but I understood that maybe you've allowed him to talk here at the council meeting earlier today.
I sure did.
So we didn't take up that matter, Mr. Chairman, with Reverend Francis at all today.
Okay, now did you want to talk to Reverend Francis after the council meeting?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay. Okay, since he missed the meeting. Okay, Mr. Thompson, we have one council member here who's always waiting to hear a report from to hear the clerk's report. I don't know whether
I'd like to say it's an opportunity to soak in those pearls of wisdom that he offers as a clerk, that I really think are important for our city, and that's why it's such a compelling issue for me.
well, now, Mr. Thompson, I don't think I can say it any better. Dale, you said we love our clerk.
In an effort to ensure that he thinks that I have pearls of wisdom, I won't say anything.
Silence is golden. Silence is golden.
That sounds good to me. At this point, I'll entertain a motion for us to resolve ourselves into a committee of a whole. It's been moved by Councilman Mike Carver and seconded by Councilman Oliver Jenkins. All in favor vote yes, opposed is no. We have now resolved ourselves into a committee.
Try it again, Ms. McCullough. Thank you.
Committee of a whole. Now is there a motion for the approval of
I would move
the
for
minutes?
that. Happy to move.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Sam Jenkins, second by, Oliver Jenkins, second by Councilman Sam Jenkins. All right, let's vote. Minutes have been approved
Mr. Everson?
with a 6-0 vote, 1 out of the chamber. Mr. Mayor, we're coming back to you now for communications again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of brevity, we will simply reiterate that this weekend will be the 4th edition of the Battle on the Border. We want to thank Denny Rogers and the folks at Landers for sponsoring it again, and we look forward to welcoming 10 football teams that will be visiting from areas throughout Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, and Alabama. For 6 outstanding games. $10 will get you into all 6. And we'd love to have you come out and have a great time. Starts on Friday night and goes through all day on Saturday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, any council members, any communications from the council?
I have some, not so much as communications, but I need to give a report on a couple of issues. Is this the appropriate time, Councilman Shine?
Well, we missed it, but you missed it, but we'll let you come in now.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Miss Bunny Moore, my good friend, Miss Helen Adger on Kenneth Street, you know, when the water main broke back here, I went and sat on the porch with her. She called on last evening, and as a matter of fact, I didn't talk to her. She talked to Arthur Thompson's, one of his clerks, and she left a message that the insurance company came out on yesterday. You're acquainted, or you're familiar with Miss Adger, aren't you, Miss? I am. She said the insurance company came out on yesterday, and they gave her an estimate. And the plumber was coming out today. And she said to relate to the council, and that's what I'm doing now, that she would be willing to pay half the cost if the city would pay the rest. And so I need you to, for the record, because you know I've been communicating with Ms. Adger for 4 years now since I've been on the council on a regular basis. For the record, I need you to address Ms. Adger's concern. I've even spoken with her daughter, who doesn't live even in the state of Louisiana, concerning this issue, even after having risk management to come out to her house. And at the end of the day, saying to Ms. Adger, this is a civil matter at this time. You know, you'll have to take it up with your lawyer. But it seems like Ms. Adger is communicating with your department, Ms. Moore. And based on what Ms. Adger is bringing back to me, it's employees within your department that's constantly telling her to contact her council person. And so it almost sounds like this landfill issue. You know, it's on the council person. So for the record, I need to know from you as a director of community development, if what Ms. Adger is asking or proposing to the council in regards to she paying half and the council paying the other half, is that possible?
I'm not sure Councilman McCulloch that's referencing our department. She did have a claim with the city, and it did not have anything to do with our department. However, let me say that our policies, rules, and regulations will not allow us to address requests of this nature, especially if we did not create the problem that caused her to have an insurance claim. We are familiar with Ms. Adger. We did provide assistance to her, Paint Your Heart Out and World Changers. Neither of those programs had anything to do with plumbing. Additionally, she did notify us that she had some chronic housing issues. We did send an inspector out. It was determined that she had water that was settling under her house that resulted from water running down the street when it rains. And that had absolutely nothing to do with us.
So the answer is no, we won't be able to accommodate the other half of the cost.
We will not.
Okay. All right. Thank you so kindly. Appreciate it. Mr. Harris, in Cherokee Park, Mr. Jazz, I spoke with you earlier this week concerning some barricades or something. Were you able to get with Mr. Jazz in the Cherokee Highland Park neighborhood regarding his issue?
Yes, I spoke with him last Friday and indicated that I would be contacting him. We'll be going out this week to actually go out and take a look at the location.
So you really haven't looked at it just yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, when you scheduled to go look at it, would you please give me a call so that I can meet you there?
Yes.
With Mr. Jazz?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Is Phil Serio still here? Phil, please. All right. Please come up, Phil.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay.
He'll be back. Well, I tell you what, it's almost like old home week.
Yeah.
Looking around, I recognize so many folks between Art and Jackie. I don't think you were down here at that time, but between V and Linus and Julie's out of the chamber. Cedric, you were on this side when I was here.
Yeah.
Dale. Got a couple of things that are bugging me right now. One of them is just that I'm disappointed in what's going on with the city as far as for cleanliness. And I mean, this new trash ordinance we've got on pickup for trees and shrubs, I took just a quick trip home today to go home for lunch, went to my CPA's, did a roundabout, back to the office, and I've got a list, and I'm going to give them to you. On East Wilderness, Glen Haven, Corinne Circle, Ashburn. I've got on Ashburn and in Albemarle, there's trees that are stacked 5 foot tall, 20 foot long, just laying there. Just laying there in the yards. I found one out in Paramount Hills. And I mean, it must be 8 foot tall, 7.5 foot tall, 25 foot long of trees just laying on the yards. And I guess my question to the council members is, what are we going to do to help these people out? Are we going to resod their yards since we're not picking up the trash? We're going to reseed the yards? I mean, we're not offering anything to the folks right now that are having limbs and trees and garbage sit there for up to a month before it's ever picked up. And, you know, I've dealt with property standards before, but does property standards address public works?
Just so I'm clear, you say there's 25-foot trees?
25-foot length of limbs, shrubs, brush,
but not individual.
plastic bags stacked together.
Okay, but not individual. I mean, they
No.
comply with the ordinance is what you're saying.
The ordinance is very clear. You know, the ordinance says that you have to put it out on the street, and the city will pick it up. But the problem is, we're 4 or 5 weeks out in the future of getting these things picked up. And what's happening is, we're finding that everything is dry rotting. I mean, you got vermin that get inside there, rats, squirrels, God knows how many snakes get inside this stuff after a month. What is it going to take to get the city cleaned up? Because right now, it's looking bad. All the neighborhoods are looking ugly.
But you know, one of the things I believe we brought up before, and I'm going to bring it up again, we do have a new system. And with the buck collection program, I believe what we did was we had tree limbs and some of that yard waste, I believe that was included in there. And I'm beginning to have thoughts that maybe that need to be treated separately, as opposed to the apartment basis, like a refrigerator or some furniture or something, where someone could kind of time that and call in and get an appointment, then set it out. You can't really time when you're going to cut trees or trim trees or things like that and set them out. I'm just beginning to wonder if that is something that needs to be handled separately. I do think some dialogue needs to take place with it, as far as legislation from here and maybe from the administration standpoint, just like we did before with the rules. Maybe we need to sit down and take a look at it and say, how can we handle tree limbs and yard waste separately? How can we collect it in a more timely fashion than what we're doing right now? Because the bulk of the complaints is coming from exactly what you're talking about. It's not the other items that we consider for buck collection. It's the tree limbs, it's the yard waste.
Although occasionally it's the other items, but it's because I think one of the problems that happened here that got this whole system backed up so much is that people were calling in for bulk collections for anything that was outside of their bin. Right. And now I have a lot of oak trees around my house, and I have a lot of fallen limbs all the time, but I've gotten in a habit of, I cut them up and I put them in a bin. It's a bin that I bought, not the one that comes from the city, but they pick those up because it's containerized, and I think that, I think that we certainly did not do a good enough job explaining to the public that if you containerize limbs, they will still be picked up. If something is in a bag, it's still supposed to be picked up. And so what ended up happening, or at least I was seeing, and you've probably seen the same thing, it sounds like you're describing, in addition to, certainly we see these large scale ones, but I was seeing just a small amount of brush that was sitting outside of a trash can, and that was getting a phone call for a bulk collection. Well, that's taking up a slot that this 25-foot
I
stack
agree with you,
really
'cause
did need.
that is happening right now.
Exactly, and so I think that, certainly I know Public Works a few weeks ago did let us know that they are sort of doing an internal policy adjustment where they are going to start picking up the smaller sort of exterior waste, not the large stuff, but the smaller stuff with the regular pickups. So hopefully that's reduced some of the wait times, or it's on the way to reducing it. But yeah, I agree. More dialogue's needed before, because clearly this system's backing up and it is looking bad.
I've got a list here, and I'll give you some, but I just found that I just found this morning, like I say, coming home for lunch. And I mean, there's a couple of things, and one of the things that I noticed coming in from a business trip recently, when I got off at 3132 right there at Ellaby Road, why are the streets so dirty now? We've got grass, we've got gravel, we've got almost shrubs, grass growing up so tall it's almost shrub-like on the side of the road, and it just seems like we don't have any assistance now in getting the streets clean. I mean, keeping the city look like it should. And I mean, between that and, of course, one other issue I want to address, I don't know where my time frame is right now, so I'm trying to move through it as quick as I can. Some of the things going on in Spring Lake right now, we've addressed with Michael Corbin, with Councilman Corbin. We had a nice meeting the other night out of the neighborhood. Bucket Man is a character that we're trying to figure out who he is and what he is, and what he's doing, and if he's casing out places. I know that there's a lot of door-to-door peddlers that we'd like to get out of the neighborhood, and we need some help, a little bit more than probably we're getting from the police environment as far as we're looking to see what's going on. But I do appreciate, Councilman, you're coming out the other night. I know the neighborhood had another meeting last night, which I didn't attend, but I heard from my wife that it was very interesting in what was said. But we need some help.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask another question, and Mr. CAO. One of the things that happened here too, as soon as we put the the new rules in, we had this storm to come up, and I think that increased the amount of yard waste and limbs and things like that. Is it possible we could go into some kind of mode here where we can maybe go out and try to see what we can do to catch up on what's out there now?
We already have.
Yeah, just kind of get it caught up, and then...
We already have, Mr. Jenkins. That was during that same week. We were getting a whole lot of complaints from Highland and some areas with a lot of trees, and we made that adjustment then and started picking up the small piles, even though they weren't containerized, even though they weren't the way they should be. One of the things that Stan hadn't had a chance to do when we tried to do the reports was give an update. There's a perception out there that nothing is going on. But if you look at the numbers, there's a lot going on. It's just taking a while to hit to certain areas. And when we get an opportunity for Stan to present how many loads these guys are picking up, how many they're picking up each day, you see there's a lot of activity going on. But those adjustments were made during the week of the storm in order to pick up those small piles and kind of catch up. If people were calling it in, what the department started doing was just going ahead and picking those up if they were the small piles that were not containerized, that were not cut up into sections like they were supposed to. So those adjustments are being made, and the department's working hard to catch up. I think sometimes people don't realize how much volume-wise, this city is a city full of trees. And there's a heavy volume out there, but as soon as we get an opportunity to present some of those numbers, I think the council will see that there's some activity going on.
I'm convinced that some activity is going on. I agree with you, and we are getting those numbers, and Mr. Harris is reporting to us.
Great.
But just based on what's out there now, is there any way that any additional city resources?
Yes, sir. Another thing that we talked about, I think we talked about a little bit at the last meeting, in conjunction with property standards that's about to embark on the sweeps. We're tying public works into that. So at the same time, we're going to have the dumpsters out, we're going to have the property standards guys out, the police guys, everybody, animal control, including public works, to go out, and as a part of those sweeps, start to try and catch up in those areas. So it's a systematic approach they've come up with, that they're trying to work their way around the cities, and some areas have been calling a little bit sooner, a little bit louder. This area, I'd be interested in getting those addresses, Mr. Serio, so we can see if they're already in the system or if we need to plug them in.
Provide you a list of them.
All right.
Well, the thing, I don't
And we can
understand.
address those areas.
Here's what I don't understand is, if you have, I'm sorry, if you have one pile at one house and you have a pile that's at the next house, why don't they pick them both up at the same time? Why do they have to wait 3-4 weeks to come back to the next one?
Let's clean up that one street.
Yeah, I agree. I agree,
But
Councilman.
And another-
if they're having to call in to request a pickup.
I'd go for that.
If you hadn't called it in, if it's 10 piles on one street, they're only gonna pick up those
They
that
get
are
one.
called in.
Another problem I've noticed is that, some people are maybe putting a mattress or additional stuff at a neighbor's house or on a pile of trash they already see out there. So, I mean, that's been a little problematic too. And we thought that could be a possibility, but it is happening. But one thing I was going to suggest positively, I think that could help in this situation too. We recently formed the Council of Neighborhoods, and that's a great network of people who are involved in all of their communities to kind of start getting word out there better and maybe organizing some of the information and questions about this. That maybe that's a good group that we could start. And Mr. Siri, I don't know if Spring Lake has a formal neighborhood. I mean, I know y'all are an active neighborhood group, but do y'all have a formal neighborhood association?
There's not a formal association.
That could be.
But that's coming around.
So they don't have a representative?
Good. No, I was going to say that could be a good
I think so.
avenue for y'all, certainly.
Well, I do appreciate your time, gentlemen.
Chairman?
Yes.
I want to make a couple of comments here, if you don't mind.
Please.
And Mr. Chairman, you just made a reference about some questions that were asked earlier at one of the mayoral forums about whether or not the folks who are seeking to be the next mayor, I'm assuming that same question is being asked for those folks who are going to be looking to either come back to the council or to get elected to the council, will end up getting the same question, and that is, are you willing to make hard decisions? And these are hard decisions, and unfortunately end up being hard decisions that are made in an environment where information isn't always actually correct. And Phil, I'm not sure if you misspoke, but you made reference to the ordinance, and that the ordinance says that all you have to do is to get the material to the edge of the curb, and the city picks it up. Well, that's not the ordinance. That's the.
We got to call it in now.
That's part of the problem, is that we have operated as a city for decades under the assumption that if you live in the city of Shreveport, that the only obligation you have is to get whatever it is that you want to have thrown away and taken away. All you got to do is get it to the curb. Whether that is a house full of furniture, whether that is a tree full of limbs and stumps and everything else, or whatever the case may be, that all your obligation is to get it to the curb. That's not true. That's not what the ordinance states. And even the ordinance itself is still in need of substantial adjustment. But it is the level of expectation, it is the assumptions that we as Shreveporters have operated under for years. It is why we end up overworking our sanitation workers and wrecking their backs and knees and what have you, having them end up getting snake bites and ant bites and what have you from going through and picking up piles and handfuls of limbs that have just been taken and dumped on the edge of the road. It's why our trucks end up, instead of lasting 15 years, last 5, because we're putting things into them that we should not. The ordinance doesn't say just get stuff to the edge of the road. The ordinance says that if you want to throw away limbs, they have to be of a certain length, and they have to be bundled so that you can, in fact, go in, pick that bundle up, put it into the back of the truck, and go on. Now, with regard to why it is that you don't get to a street where you have an appointment for a pickup, if you've got a schedule, if that knuckle boom crew has a list of 12 pickups that they're supposed to do between 7 and 1 o'clock or lunch. Now, if you end up getting to a street and you're making that one pickup, and then you see 3 others on the street that are there, if you stop and make up those pickups as well, then what happens to your schedule? And rather than ultimately ended up getting through to those 12 of folks who have followed, called in, scheduled, you now end up getting to 12, but you don't get to the 12 on your list because you've ended up substituting some others because you have deviated.
Well, it sounds like we have a communication issue with the public as to what's going on and how to, there's got to be an issue of how to resolve this.
Well,
we know what the city used to look like.
It's not just an issue of communication, it's an issue of expectation. And the expectation is one that has been built up over decades, and is one that is going to take the same basis upon which we don't have an expectation of paying for our garbage service beyond what we pay in terms of our sales taxes, ad valorem taxes, what have you. There are other places, in fact, every other place that we found, where in addition to you paying for your sales tax, your property tax, everything else, you also end up paying a fee for your garbage service. We don't do that in Shreveport either. And our citizens have an expectation that they don't, and that they won't. And at the same time, as you just said, as a former member of this body,
sure,
that the ordinance says, get it to the curb, the city guys gonna come by and pick it up.
Clean.
And if I come out and give them a cup of hot cocoa at Christmas time and let them know how much I love them, then that's how the whole system works, and that's the only thing I owe. That's part of what's killing this situation. And it's part of what is overburdening this situation. It's part of the reason as to why those guys believe that they're being abused and mistreated, because in certain respects they are. And it's going to be incumbent upon whomever is sitting here in this chair between now and the end of this term, and there's whomever's gonna end up being the 7 guys and gals that sit over there, to make some hard decisions. And those hard decisions entail us not continuing to do what we've always done in this regard. Because when we do that, then that means that we don't have money, because you talk about the condition of the streets. City of Shreveport hadn't had a street sweeping program probably since you were on the city council.
And it used to be clean.
And
It used
because
to
we
be
don't,
clean.
and because we don't have a street sweeping program, we don't sweep streets.
Right.
We end up putting those dollars, those assets, those resources into giving our citizens the Rolls Royce of garbage collection systems, which we don't need to continue to do.
Well, I think the issue is, it
Go
sounds
to a
like it
city
is a
right now,
communication issue.
which gives you your
to the public.
96-gallon container, all right?
All right?
And that charges you a monthly fee. And then there's some that say if it's not within the container, we don't pick it up. There are others who say that if your container is up 6 inches above closure, then we're gonna charge you extra. If it's 12 inches above closure, we're gonna charge you some extra. If you have some bags along the side of the container that you want us to pick up, if you don't have a prepaid sticker that you place on that bag, then we won't pick that up either. And then any of the tree limbs and stems and all those other sorts of things, which will take a lot of time for a crew to stop and manually pick up, those things won't be picked up at all. That's the way other cities, as close as across the river now, in Bossier, Longview, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, that's how they operate.
Are they facing these same issues in Bossier right now?
Bossier has a private system.
Do they?
Republic Services, the same folks who are slow picking up our recyclables are the folks who are now trying to pick up the garbage in Bossier. And they're trying to do it with one-man crews.
Well.
And they are having some of the same issues.
And they are having,
I'm not sure what's going on in Bossier. I know one thing right now, when you drive around Shreveport, what it looks like this year as compared to previous years, there's an issue that is something that is wrong that we need to address to find out a way to make this city look clean again. And I mean, it's the neighborhoods are just falling apart. I mean, the neighborhoods just don't look right. And I mean, if you're trying to attract people, to bring people into this city to live here, and they drive around and they see these big piles, there's no reason to you know, why would you want to even consider that?
the same way in which we are collecting garbage right now is the way in which it's collected in practically every other city across the country. And that is that you're not allowed to come out and put stacks and stacks of limbs, household furnishings, mattresses, white goods like stoves and hot water heaters and other things out on the curb.
I agree with you on the stoves and water heaters and all that.
The
That's a different
expectation that the
animal.
city sanitation service will pick those things up. It's because of the inefficiency of that operation that we do not find ourselves in a position to be able to do the other sorts of things that will allow us to be able to have a comprehensive street sweeping program, to have a comprehensive litter abatement program. Those are the types of things that you don't do when you operate as ineffective and as inefficient of a garbage collection system as we do in the city of Shreveport. When we collected garbage for the city of Bossier, it cost us about $11 per household to pick it up. The contract that we were under paid us about $7 per pickup. They charged their citizens $16 per month for pickup. When we ended that contract, and now they have a private service, they increased the cost to their citizens by $8. It's now $24 per household. That's 20+ thousand households that collect, that pay $24 per month in the city of Bossier for the purpose of them providing a privatized garbage collection service that doesn't do nearly what it is that the men and women who work for the Shreveport Sanitation Department do.
Well, at this point, Mr. Mayor, you know, I think the big issue is, how do we resolve it?
We make hard decisions.
How do we resolve it? How do we get the city looking back the way it's supposed to look?
We make hard decisions.
And Mayor Glover, so those hard decisions are a result of, if you don't follow the rules, we just don't pick it up. And so it makes the communities look bad, right?
Well, it becomes a point of changing how it is that we go about approaching the way in which we dispose of garbage and other waste at our house. That if you end up continuing to do that which you've always done, then you're going to get what you've always gotten. If we expect there to be some change, then we're going to have to do something different. And this is a discussion that we have had with this council going back since 2011, when this council came on board. We engaged you all in a specific dialogue that said, guys, we are killing our garbage workers. We are destroying our garbage compactors. And we don't have sufficient revenues to be able to continue all of the other operations we have an obligation to provide in the city of Shreveport and provide the same type of garbage service that we are right now. And so we either need to change what we're doing, we either need to come up with some additional revenue, or we need to help to re-educate, or a combination of all of those. And I think the actual truth is it's a combination of all of those. But part of the problem is that we have folks who have an expectation that what the ordinance says is you get it to the curb. And if you get it to the curb, then at that point it becomes the city's responsibility. And as long as that is the predominant mentality on the part of the citizens of the city, then for those of you who will be returning come December, and whoever will sit in this seat, then you will end up with the same set of challenges that we face right now. And that is trying to maintain a level of service without sufficient revenues to be able to do so.
I think Councilman Carbon want to say something. Rose.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I appreciate you taking time out of your now evening to be down here and attending the meeting Tuesday and adding your comments there. I think as the mayor just said, the solution is going to be a combination of a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm certainly in favor of reconvening our Public Works or Solid Waste Committee and beginning some new discussions. I continue to believe that we've not done as good a job as we can of getting word out to the public. And I put an asterisk at the end of that saying, I'm not sure what else we can do. But I think we've got to find something, whether it's doing some PSAs or going out and, as we go out and do neighborhood meetings. But there are, if we can talk to 5 neighbors, I think there's 5 expectations of what trash does. One of the things that I'm seeing, certainly in Southeast Shreveport, is there's obviously some trees being cut by commercial operators, whether they're working on the side or they're doing their job during the day, and they are putting that stuff out on the street. It may be one of these on the list, where there are some tree trunks that is about 3 feet in diameter at the bottom, and that's been piled out on the street. Obviously, a weekend warrior didn't go out and do that with their chainsaw. But if it means we need to reconvene the Solid Waste Committee and have these discussions and get going, then I certainly support that, and I'd like to be a part of that. I hope that we are making some progress on what's piled up around the city. I'm out and about the city a lot, either in my car or on my feet, and it bothers me to see, piles of dead tree limbs that have now dried out, and I share that concern of what happens if a cigarette butt gets in one. What's going to happen there? And there's lots of it out there, but I think that we've got to stay on top of this, keep moving, keep having those discussions. I think the next administration and the next council are going to have plenty to talk about, whether we come up with additional revenue sources, we privatize, we do some combination of that. But what we're doing now, obviously, is lacking in some areas. And so I think that discussion continues. And if there's something that we can do through the Solid Waste Committee, I support that.
Councilman, appreciate your
Let me say this to
appreciate
you,
your
Phil,
opinion,
before you
your
say
attitude.
anything else.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming down and bringing this, because all of the mayoral debates, that's one question that they bring up. Shreveport has turned in and to be a dirty city. What are we going to do about cleaning up the city? Now, I'm not running for mayor, I'm not running for re-election, but they need to answer it in a way where it's going to satisfy the citizens. Now, I believe in making tough decisions, but I don't believe in making tough decisions where I'm going to hit myself in the head with a hammer. we got to do something, even if we have to redo the Solid Waste Act. Mr. Harris, I'm going out of office, because the mayor's going out of office too, and because Sam might be here sitting over there next time, but we're gonna have to do something about cleaning up this city. I don't know whether it's to put an additional tax on the water bill so we can hire more people, or look at it in a different way. But Phil, you're exactly right. We got to do something. I mean, we can't become the next great city of the South. And I'm not talking about picking up refrigerators. I'm not talking about picking up water heaters. I'm not talking about picking up appliances. I'm just talking about picking up trash. That's yard trash. That's limbs. That's that kind of stuff. Now, maybe people have been expecting this, and maybe people are still expecting it or whatever. But hey, it's hard to change behavior. Now, I know how it is in the classroom, teaching Johnny how to start getting his lesson out. So I know how changing Johnny's mama's behavior is going to be something that I'm not going to be able to do. And they're not going to vote for you if you're not about cleaning up their neighborhoods.
I agree.
And we got to look at it and feel. I appreciate you bringing this down, because like I say now, I'm on my way out off of the council. Now, if I was gonna stay here, excuse the expression, but I'd be fighting like hell to get this city cleaned up. Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. And I'm a preacher's son, so I don't generally talk like that. But Mr. Harris, if you're gonna be around, we're going to look at something about cleaning this city up. If you don't, you might not be around. So I'm telling you how the people feel out there, because I get it, because I can have them to tell me, Joe, y'all ain't doing nothing. Because I told Dale, and I think I told Mr. Harris, and Phil, you're exactly right. And these other places, they're talking about how dirty this city looks. We got to do something. And whoever council members coming back next year, y'all got to do something. Because
I agree with you.
Phil is exactly right. Now, Phil, I took some of your time. I'm gonna give it back.
Councilman, I'm finished. I appreciate your comments, and Councilman Corman, Jenkins, Mr. Cullen. I haven't met you before, but I appreciate your your comments and your listening, and Mr. Jenkins as well. I've done things for this city for years. I mean, before I was ever on council, I was out trying to make sure that things looked right and fussing and doing things to keep business moving. And I don't know, came back from a trip the other day and I said, hey, gummit, we're just dirty. We need to get cleaned up. Appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor.
And Phil,
everybody else that I know up here, I appreciate
it. And Phil, before you go, I want to say this. You represented your district extremely well.
Thank you.
When you were here on the council.
And I tell you what, I still hear from a lot of constituents, and I call Michael and say, let me tell you what's good.
And yes, he does.
I do.
That's good. That's good.
Very good. Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have Ms. Phelps. Mr. Mayor, let me get Ms. Phelps up here, and let me get Sammy, and then I'm gonna let y'all go, and we'll come back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to first echo Mr. Serial, my former city council member and opponent at that time. I thank him for those comments, because that was a concern of mine as well. However, I have to disagree with the mayor a little bit. I understand your position of where we are. However, as a former public servant and educator, we do need to educate our community. Thank you, Mr. Corbin, for those comments. PSAs, whatever it takes, the common citizen does not know the process of having to call. I've done that myself. I've spoken with you. Even the conversation about the issue that we have is still there. And it's been there however long I've spoken with you all year long. So I know exactly what he's talking about. And if we could, Mayor, add to that list that he submitted, not just Spring Lake, but Cedar Grove as well. And even with the street that I spoke with Mr. Corbin about. we do not know to call and make an appointment and have to wait so long. So I would appreciate the efforts as well. Number two, I just wanted to make a comment. I heard Councilman Jenkins in his comments about the approval of the zoning committee. I think there was reference to how could others not in the community know what's, I think you said, know better than the residents in that city, in that community. I just wanted to make reference to you that no, the residents that do not live in the community not necessarily know better, but they are concerned just as well. When I sat on the city, on the school board, it bothered me when my colleagues would say my school. My school does not belong to in one person. We're elected to represent that particular district that makes up an entire parish. And not one person can do anything with one vote. So it's not necessarily our own single community or district. Saying that to say, if that were the case, I wish this council would have had a different view when it came to closing the track at Wingate and the Hyde Park community, making it just a one-way entrance. If that were the case, that would not be the case now.
That was not this council now.
Administration, if that's the way everybody thought.
Right.
I think that was just a
Previous
couple years ago. That would not be the case. It also brought to mind when Walmart was built in the south area. I think it was Councilman Spigner at the time, about the Walmart not being there. But now Walmart is definitely an asset to the city and to the residents of that community. So when I guess what I'm standing here asking us is to think about how we represent the city on behalf of the residents of where we live and the people that elected us to serve. If we keep that mentality, Shreveport will forever be behind. We talk about Bossier, we talk about what's going on outside of Shreveport. If those are good things, let's do it here in Shreveport also. I don't think our citizens would have a problem paying for trash pickup if it's going to better what we do. We get a bill, when we got the recycling, there's a cost for that, it's on the water bill. Educate us about what's going to happen. Come out and do more meetings, PSAs, just tell us. I think we'll get it as productive citizens and wanting to move Shreveport forward and love the city that we live in. And lastly, I say to those who are running for mayor, if we keep that mentality that I'm only going to represent the community of which I live in, the entire city of Shreveport will be left behind. And I hope our next mayor does not have the mentality of such, and I'm talking to you, Mr. Jenkins, and we're still friends, so no issues there. But just think about how we say that. It's not just for the people that you represent that elected you. We have an entire city to represent. Yes, sir.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I agree wholeheartedly with your statement. I would just distinguish between who you represent and who is most impacted. And I think that's very significant on issues such as zoning and what have you. The people, the closest alligator to the boat, it's those people in the boat that are most impacted. And that, I think it's a very, certainly I think one of the most challenging issues we face day in and day out up here on this council are neighborhood issues weighing against, I'll call them citywide issues. We try very hard to be consistent. I think all of us do up here. Keep that in mind of what we've done in the past and what we're going to do forward. So I do absolutely support that we should, and we're up here on the council representing the entire city, but on some of these, I'll call them, specific area issues, we need to a certain extent, pay extra attention to those who are most impacted. And I find that these zoning issues tend to fall in that category. Now, that is a stereotype, but as a rule, that to me becomes a very, very compelling issue. Whether it's in my district, Rose's district, or anybody's, if that person's living next door to this change, they should have a little bit more voice than somebody in Southeast Shreveport, in my opinion.
Oh, I understand. I've been elected before. I do know my first duty of representation. I do understand.
But that's not what I'm saying. That's what I want to distinguish. Not representing who we're representing, but whose sentiment we are listening to.
I understand.
Okay.
And that is why I reference, just going back to the Wingate Hyde Park area. I know we have to be fair, or we could separate zoning and other issues of why we even closed. I don't even remember the reason why the entrance was closed. But I know my community actually stood out and voiced their opinion, and this council did not hear it. So if it's an issue about separation of what the particular issue is, or if it's about representing our people and listening there, I'm just asking that we be fair about what and how we're going to do it.
Were you here a little earlier when I made my comments about Wingate?
No, sir. I was here. I didn't hear comments about Wingate.
Earlier in this meeting, I brought up the very issue that you're talking about. I do not represent that district at all, but it was brought to my attention, the concern about Wingate, and was there a potential for that street to open up again? And I addressed that to the mayor. The mayor gave some responses to it. But just as
I must have stepped out then. I apologize.
Right. But just as Councilman Alva Jenkins has said, where we sit, and that's how I started my comments today, we have to look at the health, safety, and welfare of an impacted area. There are some things that may impact one part of the city, and may have less impact on another part of the city. So these are never easy things to do, and I can certainly appreciate what you said. I admire you a great deal, and you served very well on the school board. It was very supportive of you, and I do not take no offense to anything.
Please don't.
You say, because just like the mayor said, you can't sit up here with soft skin.
Right.
I know Mr. Carey, and like Mr. Carey, I know Mr. Carey is working very hard to open that store, and I said that in my comments, but the issue for me was the additional alcohol, not opening the store.
I understand. I appreciate everyone's comments. You mentioned Wingate, and the mayor's comments of reopening was, if I could, Mayor, comments
Mr.
were...
Chairman, the Wingate closing was one of 3 rail crossings to be closed in order to accomplish 2 specific things. 1, an economic development project that involves Schlumberger, and 2, to provide a rail crossing on the southern side of the Shreveport Business Park. In order to be able to get a rail crossing where there is not one, the Union Pacific folks require that you close 3 rail crossings. And so by closing 3 rail crossings, we were able to facilitate what was announced as a 500 job infusion for Schlumberger in their yard in that area, and open up the southern end of Shreveport to access off of Burcoons. The 3 closures were the one that you referred to at Wingate. The other one was out in the Reeser area, off of Reeser and San Lucas and Pines Road area. And the 3rd was in the Cattle Heights area.
Okay.
Those are the 3 closures that were necessary in order to be able to secure 1 new rail crossing from Union Pacific. And so, absent there being a willingness on the part of folks from Schlumberger to say that they no longer need the closure that was used as a part of that economic development project, as well as the folks from Union Pacific being able to agree to their closure number going from 3 down to 2, then that will be one of the 3 closures that will continue to stand.
Okay, so with all that said, I think the question was, will there be a reopening, or we're waiting to see if they don't need it to continue to be closed?
We've not gotten any indication from, it was closed for business purposes for Schlumberger.
Right.
As well as 2 purposes, Schlumberger as well as Union Pacific, requiring it to be one of 3 closures. Now, we had the option of picking where those closures would be. It just so happened that selecting that closure gave us one of the 3 necessary, and also provided part of an incentive for a 500 job infusion at Schlumberger.
So it will remain closed?
It will remain closed, absent some action that would reopen it back up. And we don't see anything other than, obviously, the folks who have it closed would want it to be, who it impacts most directly, want it to be reopened. I understand and appreciate that. In fact, one of the things that we offered at that time would have been the construction at a cost of about $1.2 million of an underpass that would have created a rail crossing across the top, with the ability to keep the road itself open by going under the rail crossing. The previous council rejected that option, unfortunately.
Let me say this to Ms. Phelps.
Yes, sir.
Under this administration, you know it's not going to be open.
Right.
Under the next administration, you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Because you'll have a new administration, new council coming in. And I have learned as long as I have lived, nothing is in concrete. You know, for an example, when I was a boy coming up, they said that schools would never be integrated. And you see what has happened. And 40 years ago, they said that a person that looked like me couldn't be down here as a city council person. A person that looked like Sept couldn't be sitting over there as mayor.
Right.
So I have learned that you know, nothing is in concrete. You know, I remember when Sam and I was coming up, you pick up the telephone, the operator would say, number please. But you got a computer in your hand now. But you do know that under this administration and council, it will not be reopened. Under the next, you just never know. But we appreciate you coming down, Mr. Phelps,
Thank you,
and we
Chairman.
appreciate you being involved, and because you've always been involved in the community, not only in the area where you live, but you've been involved. You've been concerned about the community as a whole. So we appreciate you coming down, and please come back, and Sammy's sitting behind you frowning
I
up
know
and going
Sammy,
on.
when I used to work with,
Yeah, because Sammy,
yeah.
Sammy think we taking up some of his time.
I think so too.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you,
Yes.
Chairman.
But Ms. Phelps, just to be clear now, this council could act if they were inclined to do so now. I don't let the chairman mislead you.
Okay.
No, but that's what I'm telling you, and this administration could act, so don't let the...
And I'm telling you that the administration is not acting.
You're right, that's what I'm saying, that's what
But now,
she's,
do
that's
know
what
that
he's
Mr.
saying.
Shine, in his capacity
That's right,
as
he's
council
saying the
chair,
administration is not acting.
Okay.
Even
Could choose
if
to
this
act.
council, even if this council would act, the mayor has the opportunity to veto it. But now I know this council has an opportunity to overturn that veto. So that's why I'm saying that under this administration, under this council,
In other words,
it
you're
will
not
not
without
happen.
options.
But under the next administration and council, we don't know what will happen.
That's
Ms.
true.
Phelps, appreciate you coming down.
Thank
Sammy.
you, Chairman. Members of the council, Mayor, thank you.
Right.
Tammy, just know the word is out now. You were thinking about walking back into the door of politics, so welcome.
There you go, Tammy. There you go. All right, Sam, I'm sorry that Oliver took up so much of your Sam took up so much of your time. Mike was trying to get them to kind of quiet it down so you could come on up, because you got to catch that bus, Sam.
Actually, I'll be riding with Malcolm.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, apartment M110, Shreveport, 71101. I just want to say that I did get my money of $145 to the Muscular Dystrophy Association right before the deadline, and so they gave me a receipt, $145, and I told them I'll be looking forward to continuously helping them as much as possible, for
Please.
however long I can.
Well, did
Of course, I don't know.
Thompson over there get a chance to get his donation in to you?
Oh, yeah, he got it right
Okay.
before the deadline.
Was it
about
$1?
Mr. Shine? What about Mr. Shine?
Well, I sent mine directly in art.
Well, if he gave me $5 to go away, I'd take it anyway.
And of course, they were represented by the District A representative.
Right, they got the check. I made sure everything was taken care of. Also, on that day, after I got my money to the Muscular Dystrophy Association, I decided I might treat myself to a little lunch for doing something good. So I didn't know how long McDonald's was going to open up before they started their lunch. So I apparently found myself over at Jason's Deli for the very first time. I had never eaten there before, but since I did, I had a taco salad with vegetable soup and a cold drink, and then of course the ice cream is free.
Wow.
So I enjoyed that, and I'm glad I came today because I didn't get much peace and quiet at the downtown library with a couple of kids that were kind of getting a little bit wild, you know, and so it was kind of hard to read the paper with that going on, and so I guess I just showed up a little bit earlier than I expected that I would. And since there's been talk about stuff that needs to be picked up, check over on the corner of Centenary and Jordan, because I've seen over on Centenary and Jordan where there's been some stuff that's been laying around and not picked up as well. But yeah, I mean, there was a lady one time that did give me $5 for the telethon. I was going to Channel 3 with the money that I had, and she came up and said, if I give you this $5 for the telethon, would you just go away?
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now reconvene back into our regular session, and meeting's adjourned. All right.